except for Louise and Sean. Sean is excused this evening, and I'm expecting Louise, but we have a quorum, so we'll move on ahead. I don't believe anything changes on the agenda, except for some continuations that have been requested, which we'll take up when we get to them. You have Jim's meeting notes. Are there any comments or questions? I have a motion to approve the meeting notes. May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. We do not have the January 20 minutes for this meeting, but Gretchen will have them ready for the second meeting of the month. I have no correspondence or announcements. Anyone else? All right. And then we'll proceed to new applications, the first being Edwin and Mary Jo Henke, 11 Jones Street, site plan amendment for HVAC.
Good evening, I'm Warren Smith, architect representing Ed and Mary Jo Henke. The planning board reviewed this project sometime last year for an addition to the rear of the house on Jones Street. Even though I thought we discussed kind of site visit even in the meeting here, the location of condensers, apparently it wasn't something that made it into electronic file, so we'll assume that we didn't. There is an image, well, the site plan shows them here next to the basement access bilko door on the east side of the house, and I think there was a rendering that showed those as well in the file submitted. So there, you can see 2 units here basically next to the bilko with a line set running up the side of the house to access the second floor. It's possible we can run that inside, but the first floor would go directly in, and the second, the one for the second floor would run up close to where corner would be. So it's basically adding AC backup heat to the 2 floors of the house. It's the only practical place to locate this. The front has a porch across. Of course, the far side, the east side, actually looks out on an extension of a street that runs by. Can't think what street that is at the moment. But that's for you.
Is it Vandenberg?
Oh, Vandenberg, yeah. Actually, no. Yes, it's Vandenberg, that's right. Well, actually, that's Vandenberg and this is Jones, which is kind of strange because the address is in Jones Street, but that is the side of the house. But you do drive in there and there's steps up, and it's visible from the public. And then, of course, at the back, we have this addition with a patio with a lot of windows. So again, the east side seems to be the most logical place to put a couple of condensers, and the least visible from pretty much anywhere else.
Jim?
Not much of this one. Wanted to confirm, Warren, I saw one place that said they were condenser units, and then maybe they were heat pumps. Are they AC condensers or are they heat pumps? Or
They're specifically for AC.
they are AC.
But they always have the capability to put that type of heat.
Okay.
So we're not taking out the existing heating system.
And then the only other question that I had was just related to the units themselves, and maybe just from the angle, but it just appeared that the vertical run here, like I said, it might be able to run inside, but it looked like the edge of the house was right here, so I didn't know if it could run closer to, it looked like there was maybe some trim board here.
It might run closer to
So maybe the
short.
run could be closer to that trim, because this is horizontal trim, I believe.
The siding is horizontal.
That side is horizontal, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if this vertical element can be closer to what.
There would be a vertical element at that junction just because we're adding a new piece to the house.
Right.
So we're intending to push it as close to that as we can.
Could be as close.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been discussed.
Planning board members?
I was on the site visit, and from what I remember of the site, this is probably the best place to locate that equipment. There's just one neighbor to the side, there's no intervening street where it would really be highly visible. And I concur with what Jim said about running the conduit kind of along with the corner board. That, I think, would be the ideal solution.
Has any thought been given to screening it?
Well, there's actually, go back to the site plan, I think there's a structure that's going to be here, and this actually house on this property is right up at the front. So I'm not sure what the screening is from.
Others? Thoughts, comments? All right. Jim, you have a draft procedural resolution?
Yes. Draft procedure resolution for the board's consideration by the on the application by Evan and Mary Jo Henke for site plan amendment under Towncode Chapter 125 for the addition of 2 heat pumps. Should I call them heat pumps or should I call them condensers?
Well, I think of it as condenser, the outdoor component of that kind of system.
At 11 Jones Street within the RCH and R2 overlay, accepting the application supporting documents is adequate for further review. Classifying the action as type 2, for which coordinated environmental quality review is not required. We will schedule the public hearing for March 2nd, earlier than 6:05 p.m. Because it is in the pamphlet, even though it is a site plan amendment, we'll send it to CAB, WAC, and HAPAC for review and comment. And it does need to go to county planning because it's a site plan. And we need to plan board members to do something.
Is another site visit necessary?
That is entirely up to the board.
What do you think, Greg? You were there.
Like I said, from what I recall of the site, that would be really the best place to put it. One point of clarification though, since it is just air conditioning, are they going to be mounted on a housekeeping pad or on a elevated platform?
They would have to.
Okay, because that's the difference. The heat pumps, because they function in the wintertime, have to be up out of the snow, so that kind of raises the profile. So these would be, a little bit more in line with what we've commonly seen over the past 30, 40 years. They're mounted right at ground level. So I don't feel like I need to go. I forget who was on the site visit with me. Mr. Shaw.
Well, let me ask something else. How does the second meeting in January line up as opposed, or in February, sorry, second meeting in February as opposed to the first meeting in March? Some of these tonight will be continued. I'm wondering if the next one is lighter and we're not going to do a site visit. Do you have any?
That's all minutes.
Do we need 30 days to notice?
Do we? Yeah, we might need 30 days to notice.
For the deferral.
All right, then we'll stick with 3-2. How do others feel about waiving the site visit? Do we need a motion to waive or no?
I'll just put it in the resolution.
Okay. All right, so all those, may I have a motion and a second for the draft procedural resolution? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries.
Yep.
Thank you, Warren. The second new application for this evening is that of Ethan Smith and Monica Ramos, 608 River Road, site plan review for the renovation of an existing single-family dwelling. Good evening.
Hi, my name is John Bassett. I am the architect working with the owners. Monica is one of the owners here, and her husband Ethan, this is her brother James. We're here to talk about their house on River Road that they love here. My conversation with them started about a year ago. They wanted to basically replace the windows and do some interior work. Most of this work is going to be interior. The house needs desperately some new windows. In terms of the exterior, we had a pre-planning conference several months ago. I think that at that time, we proposed doing some more work to the exterior than where we are now. We've minimized that quite a bit. We are now just putting a condenser unit right up against the house instead of having the yard. On the house, we're removing a metal flue that's visible from River Road on an addition that was put on in the 60s, but it's quite visible. The rest of the work is interior. We're proposing to replace all of the windows in the historic rectangle at the front of the house in kind, and the rest of the windows we're planning on doing historic, I guess, there as well. And the rest of the scope is interior. There is a historic barn that is also on the property that is visible certain times of the year from River Road. The planning board has asked that we do some little TLC to that, so we're going to try to cut the vines. It's a very sort of sensitive structure at the moment, but at this phase, that's all that we have sort of budget for, is just to kind of clean up the exterior. And so, in terms of the scope, it's really mostly an interior project. We're moving the kitchen from what used to be a living room space into the rear of the house, and then really kind of just cleaning it up. This is just kind of describing the structure and the history of the additions to it. The blue portion at the front of the house is the historic rectangular structure that was built in 1850. And then if you go to the next slide, there were two additions that were put on between 1955 and 1970. The first of which is the green one, which is a two-story addition, comes off the rear of the house. And then after that, a one-story addition was put on in the northeast corner of the house. And then if you go one more, then a screened-in porch was added in 1986. And so all of the mass at the back of the house are non-historic additions. So these are the elevations currently of the house. And we'll go to the next one. These are just an overlay of how those historic parts of the house are. The blue being the historic front rectangular portion, two-story on the River Road. The green being the two-story addition that was put on between 1955 and 1970. Same with the sort of purple, the one-story. And we're not really touching any of the massing. We're not changing the roof lines. But we are removing that metal flue that really catches your eye on River Road. So these are the proposed west and north additions. You can see that we're really just on the north side, just planning on replacing all of the windows that are visible from the road, restoring the front door. It has a stone door on it as well. And if we go to the next one. Around the back, we are going to modify a large modern window that I think was put in the 80s to a larger window that we think is a little bit more in keeping with the character of the house. The owners really love the yard. That was one of the main selling points of this house. It's got a beautiful backyard visible from the inside, and that's why that window was put in. And we really wanted to kind of try to preserve some of that for now. Go to the next one. This is the view 2015 from the road, and this is the view in the summertime currently. It's very well screened most of the year round, and the back is really not visible at all. And then this is the window that's currently there. We're going to paint this low addition white to match the historic house as well, which we think it originally was. And then that's the proposal for the window in the rear of the house, but it's a non-historic addition. The next one. This is a similar type of window that was approved by the planning board in the Rhinebeck house, exterior and interior. So you see that it's much more lighting, and it's quite a bit nicer in terms of feeling from the inside and its connection to the yard, which Monica and Ethan really, really love, and we just wanted to kind of match that room as hard as possible. It's kind of the project.
Okay, I'm trying to get through this. Sorry. So it's like a couple of things have changed since we talked to pre-con. I just had just a quick question or two. I don't remember where we landed. There was a shed or a garage structure or something over here. I can't remember what happened. Is that gone now?
It's gone, yeah, that had been done, I think, last summer, under survey. That was a very rickety thing that was put up by the previous owners. It was 2x4s and burlap fabric. It wasn't.
Okay. Sorry, just having trouble talking. Let's see. The lighting appears to meet the town code for dark sky compliant lighting, so that's good. We talked about that. Condenser units you had originally planned to put in the backyard. We talked about fences or landscaping, but I pushed those against the house, so that's not back there, so we don't have any issues of. So we discussed in the pre-conference, making sure that you know what septic and all that is to make sure we have any of those lines. Payback would be with this, I think, would be important. The historic nature of the property. The basement is not proposed to be conditioned. The existing screen porch was going to be coming off, but now it is going to be retained as a screen porch, just confirming that, so allow the conditioned space. So we're not talking about any spaces that are being changed that could be considered to be a bedroom. So no need for Rhinebeck County Health for that, or determination of the bedroom. And did want to note we are, happy to see removing the vines from the barn, and just for a little context for the board, that came up just because we took a look at some pictures and saw that the barn is covered in vines. As we've discussed in a lot of projects before, we hate to see historic structures just be ruined over time just because of lack of maintenance and things like that. So we just asked that there could at least be a little bit of work to help stabilize that structure, make sure it doesn't deteriorate further than where it is right now, just so we don't lose that one at a time as well, because we've seen a lot of others. The only other question that I had is if there's any landscaping proposed as part of this. I didn't see any.
No, there's not. This is kind of that the backyard is really quite wild and very beautiful. I think there's some other growing.
So I think given the work that is proposed now, we originally discussed that the JD might be required, but given that it's just condensers on the ground, I don't think a JD is warranted in this case. So I would take a jurisdictional determination off of this. That's all I've got.
Planning board members? Questions? Comments?
It looks as though there are like 3-track aluminum storm windows fitted to the windows.
Correct.
Are those all that's going away, or are you ripping out the windows themselves?
We're removing the windows from the inside, and we're taking off the storm windows that are there, that were put in, I believe in the 80s as well.
And are you going to replace the original wooden windows, or are they from a different era? What's the-
They've all been replaced.
all the 4/4s are
Yes.
not from the
Correct.
past.
Right.
You know about when they were last replaced?
I would guess in the 80s, some of them are broken even, so they're really not in great shape.
So they're like tracked Marvin windows or something like that?
Yes.
They don't have weights or
No.
any of that? And the ones that you're replacing are going to be also 2/2?
Correct. Yes.
And maintain that same sticking profile with the
Yes.
same size
Same profile.
mountains?
Right.
And are you going to have anything like exterior wooden storms?
We don't plan to. We'd like to keep it. We'd like to kind of bring it back to a little bit more of the original look.
Anyone else?
Great, so with that then, draft procedure resolution for the board consideration. the application by Ethan Smith and Monica Ramos, the site plan under Town Code Chapter 125, which changes the existing home to 608 River Road within the RA10. Accepting the application supporting documents is adequate for further review. Classifying the action as type 2 under secret, for which graded environmental quality review is not required. And schedule a public hearing for March 2nd, no earlier than 6:05 p.m. Given the location, we will send this to the CAB, the WAC, and HAPAC for review. We're also sending it to Dutchess County because it is a site plan, and we need at least 2 planning board members to do a site plan.
I'll go. And Denise? And I have a motion to accept the draft procedural resolution. So moved. Motion second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. They'll be in touch. Schedule a time that's future meeting.
Great, thank you very much.
That concludes the new applications for this evening. Public hearings, the first up this evening is that of Theo Sullivan, 159 Cedar Heights Road, minor subdivision, 2-lot minor subdivision.
Hi, I'm Clea Sullivan. I think we finished everything, and Gretchen, I think you got everything that we needed to do from the last meeting.
Everything that you sent me for easement, that's not done now, right?
What?
The easement stuff.
It's done.
Do we have it?
I don't have the finished stuff yet. I got the draft.
What do you have?
And Josh said they were working.
I worked on it like 2 or 3 weeks ago.
We just
like
got
right after
something,
the last
didn't we,
meeting.
from
That's only a draft.
Josh's office?
That means my description.
But I think, yeah, it's the final signed.
Yeah,
Need a
it's
copy of
a
that for
draft.
you to sign.
Right,
This stuff.
so we don't have it.
That can be a condition if you want it to be, which usually for subdivisions, we require them to be and all the other things when they bring in the copies to be signed.
So where's that news?
I think other than that, we have everything we need. We have the easement shown, we have a draft of easement language, that's acceptable. Excuse me, we have the DEC letter of no jurisdiction. We did get a letter from an engineer stating they believe that the septic valve can be placed on the site. So I think those are the outstanding issues that remain. So it'll just be a question of whether I'm comfortable with essentially the draft easement as moving forward and obviously finalizing that.
Any board members, thoughts?
I would be okay with it.
You're okay?
That's okay.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't be able to sign it without a perfected easement anyway, so we would just make the determination as a board tonight that you can accept it when that's done.
That's not easy, that's just.
John, anything on this?
I haven't seen the easement. I didn't see it in the, on the Google Drive folder, so,
The last thing I got was an easement agreement and a feasibility letter from Josh.
I mean, under ordinary circumstances, we'd like to review the easement.
Okay.
So
I can-
I'd make that a condition, but, our review and approval.
So you're suggesting we can go ahead tonight, conditioned on your approval and the actual
Yes,
signed
yes,
agreement?
as long as it's understood, if we require changes to the easement.
Well,
Following this?
the easement includes a couple of different things. One is the corner of the property at the rear, but also there was the agreement with the driveway, which actually goes on to the other lot.
That's the easement, I think is the driveway regulation.
Okay.
The back corner, John's office had said is not an issue for this, so the
That's
easement
right.
language is just referring to this. To this
Yeah.
driveway.
It's just
going on
that
the
little
other
part
property.
right there in the front.
I mean, that's fine.
So what we're saying, so we have the draft of the language, right? Which hasn't been perfect. So we can approve this conditionally pending review by Grant and Lyons, subject to any changes they might wish to see and then seeing the final version, not just the draft, but the agreement itself, signed. Those would be
I
the
think
two
so.
things that would be provisional, right?
Yes.
Language changes, not map changes.
Okay, well, you're going to tell us what you're
I'll
going to say.
come up with something. Come up with
We'll
something.
we'll review the draft straight away.
Okay, all right. So, going to do the draft seeker first? Okay, all right. Is there anyone here from the public wishing to comment on this application? If there's none, I think we can go ahead with the motion to close the public hearing.
I move that we do that.
Motion, second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. So, Jim?
Yep. So, given that this is a subdivision, we do need to go through the seeker resolution, and then we'll get to the approval resolution. So, starting with the seeker resolution for the minor subdivision by Crew Sullivan, where they're actually seeking approval for the minor subdivision from the planning board to subdivide an existing approximately 14-acre lot into 2 lots. The town of Rhinebeck Planning Board, in its role as duly established lead agency under seeker. And upon review and completion, oh wait, I didn't read that last time, sorry. Let's go through the form first. How about that? So first, the EAF short form part 2, will the proposed action create a material conflict with the adopted land use plan or zoning regulations?
No.
Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of land? Will the action impair the character or quality of the existing community? Will the proposed action have an impact on the CEA? The answer is no, we don't have any. Will the proposed action result in changes to the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure, mass transit, biking, or walking?
No.
Will the action create an increased use of energy or fail to fulfill and incorporate reasonably available energy conservation and renewable energy opportunities?
No.
Will the action impact existing public or private water or wastewater treatment utilities and so on? Will the action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? Will the action result in adverse changes to the natural resources? Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems? Will the action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health? Okay, so with that, now, starting on the floor, which is that the town of Rhinebeck Planning Board, in its role as duly established lead agency under seeker, and upon review and completion of the short EAF and associated information, hereby issues a negative declaration under seeker deeming an environmental impact statement is not required and stating such will not be prepared in its consideration of the minor subdivision. Taking the action, the planning board approves the project to move forward, and the proposed actions are hereby approved for in consideration of implementation, subject obviously to the approval resolution.
May I hear a motion?
Second?
Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries.
Part 2, draft approval resolution for the board's consideration for the application by Cleo Sullivan for minor subdivision under Town Code Chapter 101 for subdivision of an existing 14.38 acre lot at 159 Cedar Heights Road within the RC5, reaffirming the prior classifications unlisted, where coordinated environmental quality review is not required, and stating the seeker of short EF parts 1, 2, and 3, as well as the approval resolution have been completed. Based upon review of the submitted information, including reports from planning board members on their site visit, when the proposed work is consistent with the objectives stated in Chapter 101 subdivision plan. With respect to the subdivision, finding that the proposed action is consistent with Town Code Chapter 101, and approve the application inclusive of the materials submitted in the minor subdivision plan sheet prepared by Richard Paul Hanbeck, New York State Land Surveyor, dated August 8th, 2025, with a file name dated January 11th, 2026. And will condition this upon receipt of the final easement language and review and approval from Grant Lyons, all of which could be subject to potential language changes based on what they define. And authorizing the planning board chair to stamp and sign the above site plan upon the applicant's satisfaction of the 3 listed conditions below within 180 days of adoption of the resolution. Reminding everyone that in taking this action, the planning board is authorizing the planning board secretary to provide the approved resolution to the applicant along with detailed next steps required to finalize the process. That all plan schedules and the materials submitted to the building department must be the same as those that have been submitted to the planning board.
For a motion? So moved.
Second.
For the board, Greg?
Aye.
Edna?
Aye.
Sharon? Aye. Grace?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Good luck. We'll wait to hear from you on the final information. Okay, thank you, good luck with your project.
Thank you.
Second public hearing this evening is that of Philip Carroll, 132 River Road, site plan review and wetland permit. Oh.
So you saw that the wetlands came back and it was approved. The other question that came up most recently was the room that is on the plan as an office and is possible use as a bedroom. Sorry, but I forgot to send over, but Gretchen does have in her possession that the tank is 1,250 gallons, which would be compliant for a 4-bedroom home. Right now, the actual approval, however, is still 3 bedrooms with Department of Health.
Department of Health?
Department of Health, thank you, sorry, yeah. All right, so, but I have already engaged an engineer who who will be working with me should you require that I have a 4-bedroom approval. But the tank is already in compliance. I just need the engineer's sign off for the leach field, which I was told that I will be receiving, which would then give me compliance for the 4-bedroom, even though it's really a 3.
I think from my end, from planning, all we were doing is waiting on the jurisdictional determination to come back. I guess the other issue we have is the discussion of when the site visit was done, there was a discussion of the number of bedrooms, so that's what
Right.
came up. And I think those are kind of the 2 remaining items as far as I recall. And we did get confirmation DEC is not taking jurisdiction, so that's been cleared.
So it's just down to the discussion of the number of
I
bedrooms.
believe so.
And board members?
So the desire is to have a septic system that would accommodate 4 bedrooms? even though-
No, that was just to satisfy you guys. It's our goal has always been to maintain a 3-bedroom home with an office. But you guys said that it could possibly be used as a bedroom, and you asked me to ensure compliance so that I didn't have to alter my plan.
Right, that
because-
was the choice. And you, rather than altering the plan, what you wish to do is to have a septic system that can accommodate 4 bedrooms, even though you plan to use only 3 bedrooms,
Correct.
right? And so in this case, would we need Dutchess County Board of Health approval of a 4-bedroom septic system?
That's what it sounds like.
But why? I mean, I just did that to
Yeah.
satisfy, because I want doors. So the long and short of it is, we want a home office,
Mhm.
so we're gonna be retiring soon, and we want a home office that has doors, right? So originally, the architect said, because we put double doors on it, that would get us over the finish line, right, with you guys, and that was still an issue, right? So I took the extra step to satisfy that there is a compliant tank and system on site. But I have no desire to change the Department of Health approval because it's a 3-bedroom.
And can you tell us more about the double doors? Are they glass, are they solid?
So they're single light, right? So they have one piece of frosted glass in the middle of them.
I see.
The septic's already there, right? Is that what you were saying?
So-
The 1250 septic is what exists, and you were
It's-
verifying that it has capacity for 4. You didn't change the septic leach field anywhere. That's there.
Right, so full disclosure, so when I had the people come in to survey the tank, the tank was, the cistern part of the septic system was degraded. So this whole thing opened up a can of worms, and I had to replace the cistern on the septic field, on the septic system, right, and it is $12.50.
I mean, if we're having open discussion about it, I like the knowing that it has capacity. I think that solves a lot of future use potential if someone used it as such. So unless there's some legality thing that is required related to some verification because of that or something, from a functionality standpoint, that satisfies me.
My concern is more than a septic tank that meets the capacity requirement that is required. Also, the field has to accommodate 4 bedrooms.
So can that, so is the suggestion to get that just verified, that the leach field has capacity?
Since you're here.
Yeah, I was going to say we have an engineer.
Since you're here, otherwise we'll use
Since you're here and we're consulting.
your knowledge, is a leach field typically sized to the tank? So if the tank is big enough for 4 bedrooms, does that mean the leach field would theoretically be able to accommodate whatever's in the tank?
Typically, they both have to be designed together. Like in Dutchess County, a 1,000 gallon tank is good for 3 bedroom, with 250 gallon added on top for each additional bedroom. The size of the fields, however, depends on 2 things. The size of the amount of flow, the daily flow, which is 110 gallons per day per bedroom, residential, and also the percolation rate of the soil. So I don't know, does the building department have any records of what the system was approved for?
The system's approved for 3 bedrooms.
Okay, so it's approved for 3, a 4-bedroom capacity tank was installed, but your field is still approved for 3. So if the concern is going over that, then there has to be verification that the absorption fields are sufficient.
Right, so all I did was, because the tank had to, because there was an issue with the existing tank, that I found out as a result of doing this, that I told them to put in a tank that would satisfy this. I mean, the underlying fact is, I'm not using it as a bedroom, right?
You're not.
That-
You are not.
Correct.
Right.
That is always the question that's before us. That we believe you and we trust you. That does not mean that the next owner can't simply change those doors and turn it into a bedroom.
Right, but then they would have to go ahead and update
Well,
the
they
Department of
should
Health.
go ahead and update.
Right.
We have encountered numerous situations in the past where they just bypass that step, make the conversion on their own without sharing that information, and turn it into a 4-bedroom without going through the proper steps, which is why we're cautious. It has nothing to do with your integrity. It simply has to do with what we've observed in the past.
Do you happen to know how old the septic system is, like when this house was constructed, if they were constructed at the same time?
They were not. The septic system was,
We're talking 50s, 60s, 70s?
no, so you're an engineer, you'll know this. You know that the inferior pipe that is in all those leach fields, it's green pipe, I think, right?
Or Orangeburg, right?
Yeah, there you go. So it was done at the tail end of when Orangeburg pipe, like it was at the very tail end of when Orangeburg pipe was allowed. But I can't speak to the exact year, but that.
I don't know if the building department has any records of when the construction was done, but otherwise.
I think it was like, it's either, so the house was built in the 50s, right? And it's my understanding that late 60s, either the late 60s or early 70s, the septic system failed and was replaced at that time.
Just quick.
This says built in 66 and substantial renovations done in 1986. I don't know.
All right, so that was when it was done.
That's
So
what the public
80,
record
so
indicates.
sorry, yeah, 86 is when it failed right around that same time. So it's been in our family this whole time.
Right, so if it's was, if the SPS was reconstructed approximately in the 80s, the health department may have records of what was done, if there was any improvements, or whether it was just a replacement in
So,
time
for
because
what-
of a failure.
For whatever reason, when I did the foil, right, it's not on there. And I have so when our family did that awful renovation in the 80s, the architect is no longer around, and there isn't, and as I said, the foil didn't have any.
But your family did the renovations? And
Correct.
They kept no records of their own?
So they're both in their late 80s right now, and they both have catastrophic dementia.
No, I was just asking if any records have been retained.
We were having trouble finding any. Yeah, it's a family issue.
Okay, apologize for that. John, what do you think?
I understand what the board's concern is.
Yes, you can.
I understand what the board's concern is. I'm familiar with the instances in the past where there have been conversions that have been done by subsequent owners without getting permission, and it is an issue for the town, but the resolution of this particular case resolves within the board's discretion. And whatever assurances the applicant offers to you that the board deems sufficient will be sufficient.
Well, it does not have access to a bathroom unless you go into another bedroom. It does have double doors on it, which typically do not provide a lot of privacy.
Have you considered, I know, I guess I'm asking how important the doors are to you.
So I'm a medical professional, so for HIPAA, I need the doors.
Because you'll be conducting business in the office?
Correct. So I'll be doing,
I thought I heard you say-
telehealth
Okay.
with patients, and we have guests, there's, I have to have doors.
Okay. No, I was just asking because that would have been an easy solution.
Yeah, or, I don't know, maybe fixed pane windows, if the windows are non-operating. I don't know if that's a criteria.
The windows in the room itself.
Yeah.
Is that
the
legal?
windows there? Where are the windows to that room?
Groups?
These are the windows.
All right, so I think Craig, you have an idea.
And those
Some
are
more.
casement windows that kind of open, out from a hinge.
Correct.
And if there's no path of egress within, a bedroom has to have an
Right,
open window.
So if you look at the front of, I think you're gonna have a different problem with that though, because if you look how symmetrical I've designed the front of the home, if I start doing that, then you're going to have windows that don't match the rest of the front of the plane.
No, they could match.
Yeah, they can match, just
They can't open.
they would be fixed panes or,
But I want a window that opens.
okay, then it can qualify as a bedroom. So it's all a series of choices.
No, if you can have egress, if somebody can get out the window, that is required in a bedroom, right?
Right, I know the code,
If a
yeah.
human person cannot get out of this particular window, then it does not qualify as a window that can be in a bedroom. So is there some way for that window to not open as widely?
I don't know.
But we're trying to come up with.
No, I understand. I mean, the side of the house is not a street view, right? For sure, right? So if you wanted me to put picture windows that are the same size as the rest of the windows in the plane, I'll put windows on the side of the house that open. Oh, but then that's still an egress.
That's the egress,
I mean, I don't want an office that I can't open
Yeah,
a
well,
window.
and it's not incumbent on this board to design your project. The fact of the matter is,
Well-
what you're showing us is,
Aggression is not cool, just so you know.
I'm not being aggressive.
But you are.
All right, I'm sorry. It's not incumbent on this board to design your project for you.
Right, but yet you're making an assumption that an office that I need to conduct work in is a bedroom, even though it's not designed as such. So, and you're holding me responsible for
Okay.
what someone may or may not do in the future that I have no control over, sir.
That is a requirement of the code. The town rewrote the code a couple of years ago specifically for this item. So it is a requirement that this board would consider a room to be a bedroom. So they have to deliberate this issue. It's specifically in the code.
I mean, I put in doors with glass panes in them. I made double doors. The architect said that this should satisfy, right? We also went, while we were designing, one of the other considerations during the design process is that we made all the bathrooms en suite and again, to further satisfy that this room would not have direct access to a bathroom.
And the glass in your double doors.
It's frosted.
Can it be clear glass so that you can see through it?
I'm going to just add another suggestion that involves all of that's happening. And we really are trying to find solutions. I know this can get a little wild, but really we're saying, how can we help you to get what you need while still protecting the long-term, challenges? So we are on your side here, okay? To Craig's point, I agree, I want my office window to open, but rather than casement, awning windows are a very viable solution where the window will open now not outwards, but from the bottom. And it will not open enough for egress, and you will get your window open. So I suggest an awning window. You will
Awning
open,
window,
it will
fine.
not satisfy a thing, and you can get your doors. That's what I suggest.
I think that's a smashing solution.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll take it.
Because it's not going to look any different.
So
It's not any different.
So
It
they
looks the
would,
same.
so
Don't
I
open
can
on the
buy,
bottom.
I know what, I didn't just think of an awning window, sorry. But so I can make those two windows the same as all the other
Yes.
windows and just, instead of having a side crank, have a top crank and it be an awning window.
Exactly.
And then it only opens, 6 inches or
No,
something?
they'll open probably, 12.
Yeah, I have them in my current
It's a nice
house, yeah.
amount, and actually, if
Yeah.
it's raining, it's great because you don't have to close your windows.
Right.
So,
Planning board members? Is everybody satisfied?
Yes.
Yes.
So what we have in the end are double doors that have frosted panes in the middle, 2 of them. And the 2 windows in the office will now be converted from those that are the same as the others to awning windows.
same windows awning operation.
Is that what we're looking for here?
Yep.
It's acceptable to you?
Yes.
Anything else? All right, Jim? Let's see, is there anyone here from the public wishing to comment on this application? If not, can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Jim?
Okay, make a slight modification to this, but draft approval resolution for the board's consideration for the application by Philip Carroll for site plan approval on chapter 125 for renovations and additions to an existing home at 132 River Road in the RA10. Reaffirming the actions type 2 for which coordinated environmental quality review is not required. Based upon review of the submitted information, finding that the proposed work is consistent with the objectives and regulations of chapter 125. With respect to the application for site plan approval, finding the work and intended use to be consistent with Town Code Chapter 125 and approving the application inclusive of materials submitted by Wetland Architecture under cover date September 2nd, 2025, with site plan dated July 29th, 2025. We will condition this upon ensuring that the plans show 2 double doors with frosted glass in the office, as well as windows that will be shown as being awning. We will ask the board to authorize the planning board chair to stamp and sign the above cited site plan upon the applicant's satisfaction of the 3 conditions listed there. And note that in taking this action, the planning board is further authorizing the planning board secretary to provide the approved resolution to the applicant along with details on next steps required to finalize the process. And then all plans, sketches, and other materials submitted to the planning department must be the same as those submitted to the planning board, subject to the condition that I just listed.
May I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
I'll poll the board. Craig?
Aye.
Edna? Tom?
Aye.
Sharon? Aye. Elise? And I vote aye.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Good luck with your project.
Thank you.
The next scheduled public hearing for this evening is Justin McLeod, 531 Old Wittenberg Road, site plan review, renovation and addition. With a request to continue the, Gretchen? We have a motion, request from Justin McLeod to continue to March 2nd. All those in favor, may I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All those, that's unanimous. The next public hearing for this evening is Gary Prince and Kelly Swiss, Acker Cook Road, site plan review for the construction of a single-family dwelling, covered terrace and in-ground pool with fence. We received a request this afternoon from the applicant's representatives to continue the public hearing to the March 2nd meeting. It is a public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to comment on this application? If there are none, then we have a motion to continue it. We have a motion second.
Motion. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. That brings us to the last public hearing of this evening. That is Rhinebeck Villas LLC, New York State Route 9G and Mill Road, site plan, special use permit, and wetland permit. Our intention this evening, welcome to Christian Moore from CPLES.
Did you want Christian to talk to the planning board about the Swiss and Friends application at all before we move on? Or?
We can.
I mean, while he's, I'm just thinking
Well,
while he's.
we had intended, part of the reason you may recall, and let me refresh everyone's memory, is we changed the tracking for Swiss and Friends to put them on tonight, precisely for the reason that Christian was going to be here, and we knew that if there were any questions or any discussions that needed to take place between the applicant, the applicant's representative, and Christian, we could accommodate that. So while he's here, he can summarize for the board and for the public. I'm sorry to hold you up, Sean, I jumped ahead.
No, that's okay. No problem.
So he can summarize where we are in terms of our correspondence and review.
I'm here. This is my project. I'm here. So I could listen.
Absolutely. Do you want to listen to the microphone, or would you like to listen?
I'll stand.
Okay. Have you seen this before?
I haven't.
You've not received copies of Mr. Moore's correspondence?
I have been traveling for the last 2 weeks, so I have not.
Okay, good. Then we'll have you
All the more
inform.
reason to get it first.
Correct. Okay, so give it a
Okay, so my comments are based on the most recent site plan provided order, January 7th. Originally, this project showed the driveway going out to Acker Cook Road directly from the proposed house location to the north. Subsequent applications have now realigned the driveway to go to the shared common driveway located to the east of the property. That conforms better to the conditions on the filed map which created this lot. The rest of my comments are specific to this. Looking for the new driveway to be shown in its entirety on the plans, connecting out to a suitable access point. It's shown going part of the way, we just don't know how far it needs to go all the way to connect to the existing common drive in whatever condition that's in. Proposed
Sorry, I
driveway.
couldn't understand that. What was that?
The driveway that is going to serve this house needs to be shown extending a little bit further to where it's going to
Talk about here.
What date is this plan?
Christian, Christian.
Are you thinking you have a different plan up there?
I had a dated 1/7, January 7th. Is that the last revision date? This looks different than what I had.
This is
no.
this one just came in last week.
And it came out like on Thursday or something.
Oh, okay, then I have not had a chance to review these plans, so I don't know if it's appropriate for me to comment. My old letter on information that's now changed. I can make various comments on, need to get coverage under the stormwater species general permit.
That's what we're working on now.
Okay. Again, these plans may have taken care of some or all of my comments. I don't know until I've had a chance to review these.
Yeah, Christian, I want to say one other thing about the connection too. It's the planning board's made clear to the applicant, just so there's no misunderstanding, that there is not an expectation that the applicant would be building out the cul-de-sac, so we're just looking for a connection.
Understood. Just need to provide proof of Dutchess County Health Department approval. And again, my other comments are probably just gonna not even comment on them now because they may have been resolved on these. I don't want to say things need to be done when maybe they haven't.
So I believe that some of the responses from the architects was that this part is paved, this first part is paved to compliance with however I think it needs to be. And then there was I think there was a question about the slope going up this ridge here, and that was, I believe it's under the 6 degrees that it needs to be.
Yeah, based upon my measurements of the last set of plans, the common driveway slope that I saw, it exceeded 6% in a couple places, which by code, the entire driveway would need to be paved.
Yes.
Now, if there's new field conditions, which will bring that slope down to 6% or below, then that requirement would be waived.
I think so what was the percentage you saw?
6%.
But you saw it more than 6%?
Yeah, there were a couple areas that were 8% and above, based on the earlier plan. And it was part of the existing driveway where you're kind of branching off from that. Yeah,
So
this grading plan is
more than 8%, it requires to be paved?
6.
6.
If it exceeds 6%, the entire driveway needs to be paved.
Okay, so that is something I have to address with the additional neighbor that's over here. Right? So I guess that becomes a question, do I have to, he's assuming he's going to be building his house pretty soon, that's my understanding. So is that something I have to get paved right away? Or is that something I can wait until he builds his house to get paved in the future? Because if we agree to pave it now, and I build my house, and then he comes in and starts building his house, tearing up what was freshly paved, I mean, is there a leeway there?
Is that going line, is that part of the original subdivision?
Yeah, it would be in the agreement. There's a maintenance, construction maintenance agreement for this whole driveway, so anything that happens there would have to be done within, the confines of whatever that agreement states in terms of maintenance and whatever the case may be, and then whatever the town would require for construction.
So if someone were to build on that property to the north, would they have to come before the board for site plan approval? Or would
Given
they?
the historic nature of the area,
Okay.
so they would be coming in as well, and they'd be discussing the same thing, connecting to the same.
And I know they're in the process of doing that, because they just did their leach field assessment a couple of weeks ago, so.
I don't know that they're before us.
They're not, they just did, they're planning to do, right? So
Okay, but
So,
we haven't had a pre-con, so as far as I'm concerned, there isn't an application. It's
Okay.
even pending.
okay, so our architects, I think that it's 6%, so I don't know. You're
Well, we'll have to
saying 8%,
verify
so
that.
we'll have to verify.
Yeah, because these plans show, it looks like regrading far in excess of what was shown on the last set of plans that I looked at. So I think they took my
Recommendation.
my letter and they kind of took a look at that, but I'd have to look at these plans and review.
So, the correspondence we received this afternoon said that you're still awaiting comments from the fire inspector and now need to coordinate a SWIP, both of which are in progress. which was the basis for the request to continue.
Yes, we got an engineer for that.
Great.
Yes.
Jim has a list of what he feels are outstanding issues, as well as the final review from Christian of what was submitted by you. So we know that's pending. Okay. Jim?
Yeah, and you know, Christian's engineering sign-off is one of those items, but there are a couple things that still remain that I can see. The fire department, fire inspector, as we noted already, the engineering sign-off by CPL and Christian. Christian and I both felt that the application of the New York State DEC for the jurisdictional determination and that notice of incomplete application really should be tied off. It should just, you know, close out that application so it doesn't come back to haunt you later. I guess it's kind of up to you. I don't think we can really force the issue, but I'd hate to see it come back later on. You know, if you guys are doing construction and DC comes back and says, what are you doing? You didn't finish out your permit. So we think you should try and figure out whatever it takes to finalize and close out that application because it's not relevant now to what's going on. You're not going through the DEC wetland on that side. They haven't taken jurisdiction of the wetlands here on site. So the other things were input from the town highway department. I know we're connecting to an existing driveway, but that existing driveway was built originally for one house. We now have two. None of us think that this is going to be built to town road specs. It's going to be a driveway, but we just want to get sign off from Bob Wine as we do with any project that comes in to make sure he's okay with the access and isn't requiring anything. Even if it had been done before, maybe something wasn't done quite right, Bob needs something done. This is the time to look at it when the projects come in. So we need something in writing from Bob Wine that he's okay with what's there or whatever might need to be done.
And fire department for emergency access.
Right, fire department, fire inspector, sign off. We do still need to resolve the ZBA stop work order. And the other item that's still remaining, that I know the representatives stated they don't necessarily want to do at this point. We always ask for identification of trees over 6 inches, DBH, to be identified on the plans. Your representative stated that they don't want to do that on the plans, that they would prefer to do that in the field. That's not typically how we work here on board, but I will just leave that out there for consideration by the board as long as we're not taking action anyway. If that's something we want to do, every situation is different, so it's the board's decision how you want to handle that. So it's the stop work order, possible tree issue, town highway department letter, fire department, fire inspector letter, engineering review and sign off, and then again, we recommend we close out the New York State DEC application, but really I guess that's kind of up to you. Those are the ones, that's it.
Well, and let me just take this a little bit further and clarify the one thing. There is still, as you all recall, a notice of violation and a stop work order on this property. We have sent a request to Brian Tam, who is the zoning administrator. We have notified him that we believe we're approaching the final steps in this application, and we've asked him to begin his consideration of what he needs to see in order to lift the notice of violation and stop work order. Because until that is done, I can't sign the approval. And so we are trying to get, we can agree and we can vote here, but until Brian takes his steps.
Yeah, we actually reached out to you guys in October, so we could figure out a way to resolve that.
That's up to Brian, we don't resolve it.
Yeah, no, we reached out to you guys and Brian, and we haven't heard anything.
Well,
We're actively trying to resolve it.
So are we. So we're going to try to work that in parallel with the last stages of the review to try to save time so that when the time comes for approval of the plan, that hopefully we're at a solution at that point as well.
We spoke to him just this morning. He was in a pre-conference meeting with us. We reminded him that we were interested in having him proceed with that as expeditiously as possible. So we are moving everything along parallel to this final review stage. Okay. Anything else from anyone? Anything else from you, sir?
Yeah, so do you want the highway superintendent to come out again? Is that what you're asking?
He hasn't looked at this particular application at this time with the driveway where it is my understanding.
But the previous...
He looked at it in your prior application. We need to have him sign off on this one.
Okay, but back when this was originally done,
He
the
wasn't
highway
just-
superintendent came out and there was a big, long discussion about it. So we have to have him come out again?
Yeah.
Well, you have to reach out to them and get something from get him to submit something to the board in writing. He may look at it and say, I don't need to come out again, I know what I'm gonna say. We don't know what he's gonna say, but we need something in writing from him just stating what his thoughts are on
This is a
this
change from
application.
what he looked at before.
Yeah, but my only comment is that this was approved already back in the 80s by
But
subdivision.
he certainly wasn't the highway superintendent.
So lots have changed.
Lots of things. Okay. Anything else? All right, so we did, I think we already had a motion and a second, so, anything else? Okay, anyone else? Okay. I will now re-invite Sean back to the microphone. And our intent this evening, I think, is we have Christian here, and Christian is prepared to work with us as we work through those portions of the seeker that relate to the things that are under his expertise.
Very good. Good evening. I'm Sean Kemp on behalf of Rhinebeck Villas. We did supplement some materials based on comments that we received back from Jim Levy. We did that by letter dated January 23rd. And I just wanted to note that I do have Rob DuPont, the project architect, here tonight, as well as Skip Francis, the project engineer, in the event that there is any questions. Other than that, thank you.
I think the
You might
idea.
want to introduce what we're going to cover tonight.
Right, so as everyone knows, we've been going through this is a type 1 action, we've been going through the full environmental assessment form part 2. We have already covered quite a few of the items that are required in seeker. I'll just go really quickly. We have already discussed and covered item number 5 related to flooding, item 6 related to air, 7 plants and animals, item 8 related to agricultural resources, item 9 related to aesthetic resources. We have gone and discussed item 11, the impact on open space and recreation, item 12, the impact on critical environmental areas, 13, the impact on transportation, 14, the impact on energy, and 15, the impact on noise, odor, and light. The hope tonight, and the desire tonight is for Christian to walk you through items 1, 2, 3, and 4, which is land use, geologic features, surface water, and groundwater. I think that will probably be all we will do tonight. And then the last ones that we would go through would be historic archaeological resources, human health, community plans, and community character. That's I think for probably. Let's see where we go. So I think with that, I turn it over to Christian. I have the form up on the screen. I do have the, I've done before, I have the seeker, notebook page up if anyone wants to pull that up to look at any of the questions and the examples as we go through those, so just let us know. I'll turn it over to Christian, and I'll just run the sheet.
Okay, here we go. You already received of an updated EAF prepared January 23rd, 2026.
I can't hear.
Can you hear me now?
Thanks.
Yeah, we are in receipt of an updated EAF dated January 23, 2026. And also I have Jim's draft comments. Prepared. I'm just going to go through these one at a time. Question number 1, impact on land, sub A. Proposed action may involve construction on land where the depth of the water table is less than 3 feet. The item does not appear to be complete. Information is included in the earlier version.
Some of those notes are old notes. So the new EAF does answer some of those, so be more careful what everyone originally done.
Yeah, I wasn't going to read these, completely verbatim. Larger.
It's E2B.
Okay, they provided an answer here. Average depth of the water table on the project site, 8 to 10 feet. Now that may be an average depth. garnered from soil mapping. We do know there are wetlands on the site where the ground line depth will be obviously less than that. In order to be considered a wetland, you need to have the water within 12 inches of the surface. But overall, for the average depth, that may be an appropriate answer. However, they do indicate that the soils are poorly drained, and that is consistent with wetland-type soils. And based upon the plans that we reviewed, they're tending to avoid any construction in those areas that are swampy. They do have some crossings from the main development up to where the wastewater treatment plant is, but that's not going to be a paved road. It's going to be a gravel surface road, and will have to be constructed obviously to support the proper vehicle loading for anyone who's going to be able to maintain the package plant. So based on that, what is the board's opinion on whether or not package plant?
Are we on the age now?
Yes.
Yeah, one sub-A.
So is the water table less than 3 feet? That seems to be,
They're indicating that the average depth of the water table is 8 to 10 feet.
yes, okay, so that would be no, yes.
Yes.
People tag team this for you, so you don't have to do all that. So, everyone, so letter A, everyone's in agreement, no small impact will occur?
Yes.
Okay. B, Christian, we're going to go to E to F.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, the proposed action may involve construction on slopes of 15% or greater.
And
You're all ready to take them. Yep.
yeah, the EF indicates that 20% of the site is the slopes of 15% or greater. 10% of the site is 10 to 15% grade, and the remainder 70% is 0 to 10% grade. And they have indicated on the plans several areas that are in excess of 15%, although I think an actual slope analysis plan, I don't recall that they've ever provided one that shows the entire site with the existing slopes. I don't remember seeing that.
I think to the south and west, there's a pretty steeply sloped part of the parcel, but I don't believe that the construction was planned for that part of the plot.
Yeah, they were doing their best, their level best to stay away from the steep areas because they.
Yeah, and while there may be some construction that's occurring on parts of the site that are currently sloped at above 15%, I would say it would have a small impact on it. It's certainly not representative of the project. It's not like it's being cantilevered off the side of the cliff.
Yeah, those areas that would be disturbed in the steep slope, though they're isolated to one little portion or another. And some of the slopes that they're constructing, they are clearly in excess of 15%, but they are proposing proper erosion control with erosion control matting and stabilization. So based upon that, what is the board's opinion as to
No
potential impacts?
Would it be no or small, or would it be moderate with the provision that the proper, what do you call it? Where they're constructing a slope that's greater than 15%? You said they are doing something properly.
Well, yeah, they're showing proper erosion control and they're showing proper erosion stabilization methods.
Erosion
They have
stabilization.
an erosion matting. There's different terms for it, but wherever they are exceeding, I think it's, but they're exceeding 3 on 1. They're showing fabric to be installed to stabilize the slope until the grass matrix holds.
Yeah. Now, Christian, is that typically the concern with that provision of going over that 15%? It's about erosion, per se, that And silting up in the wetlands and that sort of thing.
Predominantly, yes, during construction, you try to loosen as little soil as possible. And the minute you take away the topsoil surface or whatever vegetation is holding it down, 15% is usually the critical spot where if you have a gully washer or a big downpour and there's nothing to hold that slope together, that's where you have the greatest threat of erosion.
So the question is, do you believe the proposed action will involve construction of a slope of 15% or greater? That would essentially cause a moderate to large impact and not a small impact. Just the information.
I'm not sure which way to go with this. I wouldn't say it has no impact because there's already provisions that are being made, but they do seem to me to be limited and effective.
And what I heard Christian say is any impact is mitigated by what is going to be done to protect the slopes and not allow water. Or small, I would say, be a small impact.
Others, smaller impact, I would agree.
Christian, next one, we're going to E2A. Question C, the proposed action may involve construction on land where the bedrock is exposed or generally within 5 feet of the existing ground surface.
EA indicates average depth of bedrock on the project site, 1 to 3 feet below grade. The question right below that, are there bedrock outcroppings on the project site? The answer is no.
I missed the second half of what you said.
So the rock outcroppings.
Yeah, E2 sub B, are there bedrock outcroppings on the project site? The answer is indicated no.
There are no bedrock outcroppings?
That's what this is indicating.
I mean, the site is really dominated by rock outcroppings, so maybe the design team can speak to that. Is that not bedrock? Is it a different kind of rock that's sticking out of the ground?
Sure.
The question deals with construction on.
Yeah.
That's what it said.
Yeah, they're gonna, it's within a couple of feet. I just find it a little confusing.
Yeah, so I think, when I did a site visit, walk there several years ago, and we started on this, and I think I do remember us discussing that we did see rock outcroppings. It seemed like the historic archaeological report did state that there were some there, but it didn't seem that they were being disturbed by the project that was being imposed. So I guess the answer no is related to the disturbance area linked to this project.
Not to the presence.
Not necessarily to the presence that's there. So I guess the question for the board is, it may involve construction of land where bedrock is exposed within 5 feet of the existing ground surface. We're looking at the action itself, right? So we don't need to necessarily consider the other.
Right.
There's a lot of land on properties not being touched, right? So do you feel that there is a no or small impact that could occur or moderate to large impact? And based on what you saw in the field.
I think they're doing a lot of rock removal in order to level the site out.
Yeah, in order to install their utilities, if the average depth of that bedrock is 1 to 3 feet, just doing general grading activities, they could be exposing some of that. Certainly they're going to be getting into that when they install their subsurface utilities, water, storm, and sewer.
And what is the effect when you have bedrock and you need to get down through it in order to install electric 4 feet down? What happens?
A lot of that depends upon the nature of the rock itself. If it's like solid ledge rock, then you'd have to use hammering or some other method, mechanical methods to remove it, possibly blasting. If it's something that's fractured like a shale, you may be able to just go in there with an excavator and rip it out.
We have confirmed we'll be blasting on the site for this project.
So that's...
Blasting is out.
Yeah, so then it's going to have to be purely mechanical, the pneumatic hammer methods, and that could dovetail into other aspects in the AF, like specifically regarding noise during construction. But other than that, I mean, they could still probably build this. It's just going to take more time and money to remove whatever rock needs to be taken out to install utilities properly, bed them properly.
And regarding noise, you did bring that up, and we know that is a big topic. We did discuss noise previously, did talk about noise related to construction. Understanding, and we've done this with a couple other projects, that any noise that does take place related to construction or just general noise after a project is built has to be within the noise standards of the town of Rhinebeck. So any construction that is done has to be within the standards. We understand that, we did discuss that last time around.
Okay, so during that discussion, was there anything, any discussions on possible noise monitoring?
We did not get into that.
I think one thing that might make it clear is if they could, provide some information as to how much rock they think they're going to need to remove. Because I think we did ask for an estimate of cut fill volume to be removed from the site, and I don't believe that was ever provided. Is that correct?
Look at me, I don't believe
Do I
that.
need-
So,
Your engineers here, was that provided?
I don't believe it has been to that extent. The final design will obviously involve a cut fill analysis. We do know and acknowledge that the contractor will be dealing with rock, but we made even a preemptive statement on the EAF that blasting will not be used. But in terms of quantifying the rock, it will vary depending on the depth that ranges from as you move across and throughout the site. It's difficult to assess the amount of cubic yardage of rock that's going to be removed. At this point, it's a level of secret. We acknowledge that it will be some, but we cannot quantify that
Have you
specifically.
done any borings or any exploratory work to figure out, now in one area you're
Yes.
proposing the use of subsurface infiltrators. Have you done any borings or tested, pop some test pits there to
Done
figure out
the
what's
soil tests for the stormwater management areas. I'm sure when it comes time for final design of buildings and structures, there'll be borings for building code in all four corners where the buildings will be going in, and we'll get proper determination of what's under each building before the foundation is done.
I seem to remember on the site visit, they mentioned that it was at one time a quarry. Am I remembering correctly? I mean, we saw some huge boulders just sitting in the woods.
There's
I don't
reference
think
to
they
a
got
church,
their natural.
quarry,
I'm sorry?
right? That's
Yeah,
what-
the archaeology report refers to a church quarry that was found not on this investigation, but it was in the record. And we weren't able to locate that. But where the buildings that are along 9G are supposed to be placed, that has the appearance of an old stone quarry gallery where fieldstone was then taken for fences and that sort of thing.
Right. But that could suggest that there's a whole lot of rock there, right?
Yeah, well, and I don't know where we make the distinction between, fieldstone and bedrock, where it's a solid outcropping that has to get, broken up rather than just picked out and removed. And there are some spots that are indicated on the plan where there are rock outcroppings. And my memory wasn't, they were very close to the construction site, so.
With us not really knowing the capacity, right? I mean, what's the best way for us to answer this question?
I'm gonna bring up the secret workbook page.
Okay.
Go for our discussion a little bit. I believe we're into this question here. Is the average depth of bedrock less than 5 feet? Are there outcroppings? Will any land surface take place in locations having shallow bedrock? Bedrock outcroppings will blasting occur? The answer to blasting question is obviously no. We have that in writing. So here is the guidance on will there be an impact, and it would be small, moderate to large. Yeah, there's one.
Seems like the degree of impact depends upon how much rock there is and how deep it is.
Yeah, if you read what it says under small impact, that reassures me a little bit more that, yeah, there's shallow bedrock present, but the proposed project disturbs only a limited area by excavation. There's not going to be any blasting. And largely the parking areas, I can see that, right? I just wonder how it overlays, with that, was it a 5-foot limit? Or within 3 foot of the surface? Five feet.
Five is surface.
Can you put under what moderate says?
So this is what moderate.
Extensive areas are shallow or exposed.
You indicated that did you indicate that you had not done any borings?
We've done some test pits in the area where they're proposing some subsurface infiltration areas, and that's in one central part of the site.
I'm just checking to see if those were just done with a test, I believe they were just done with a small backhoe excavator, not a geoprobe or a drilling rig or anything of that sort. Because for the stormwater management areas, we were only going down anywhere from, I don't remember, 6 or 8 feet or something like that. Some of the building foundation borings would go a little bit deeper.
Christian, how many dump trucks is 1,000 tons?
Just
That's the next question coming up.
because that is one of the criteria for the moderate to large impact is to manage the additional 1,000 tons of natural material.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of that depends upon the nature of the material that's being come out. If it's very fine material, the dump truck is going to hold a lot more. If it's very large boulders, it's not going to hold nearly as much. So there's a lot of variability, especially when you're dealing with rock.
Right.
Usually a dump truck is like a 26 ton maybe. A lot of it depends on what they have available and how far they got to take it to where it's got to go.
So 100 tons would be like maybe 4 truckloads. So you're talking about maybe 40 truckloads would be coming out of the site.
Probably for 1,000 tons.
Yeah.
It might be a bit more than that, depending on how easily the stuff comes out.
Right. But still, in terms of quantifying what's there, I don't see 40 dump trucks.
Well, we'd also have to take into account not just the rock that needs to be removed to make the site happen, but also whatever overburden material too, unless they can find a way to reuse it on the site, and I don't know that they can.
Yeah.
That's why.
Move it up a little bit so I can see.
Lovely AI says the standard dump truck will carry between 20 and 25 tons, which is a large variability, but let's say one truck is going to hold 25 tons, we're talking about 1,000 tons here, that'd be a lot of trucks.
Yeah.
Assuming the largest one is 25
40
trucks.
truckloads. Did you do any estimate of what the removal would be? Because does it count if you move it to a different part of the site?
Well, that would not change if you had to remove. It would change the cut-fill balance on the site if you could reuse it. If you're taking out large rocks, you're probably not going to reuse those unless you're going to bring a crusher on site and process your own granular fill, which I don't know that is going to happen here. But whatever can't be reused on the site has to be taken away. Because I don't think they're going to want to, run the hotel with large piles of rock spoil. They have to figure out whether they would put that. So I think doing some additional test pits would provide a lot of information. And also just even a general cut fill analysis on what you have so far. That would give you an idea of what you're going to be up against.
The cut fill analysis would be like basically surface grade, existing surface grade to finished surface grade. It's going to be top to top. What we don't know is how that underlaying bedrock thickness comes and goes
because the overburden can be 6 feet, 10 feet in some areas, it might be 2 feet in the other. So what we're looking at on a computational scale of would be just that, a mass excavation from top surface to proposed surface. And that could be a mix of dirt and rock. We don't have an image or anything to show the substrata of what's going on with bedrock underneath the overburden until we start.
I think that's what would help that calculation if you did some, test pitting. I mean, maybe just with the backup, just get down, existing grade is, let's say 580, you're down 5 feet. Now you have a data point for what your rock surface is at that spot. Just do several pits around there, and you can make your own contour map of where the rock appears to be. And then you can do that subtraction from your finished grade down to wherever you need to be.
Sure.
But then your finished grade for your pavement surfaces needs to take into account your pavement thickness, your pavement subbasin. So there's an additional, let's say 12 to 18 inches, let's say, that you'd have to figure out, and plus your subsurface utilities. All your storm is going to be down at least 12 to 15 inches below grade. And some of them are going to, like your sewer generally runs by gravity. You have a pump station there in the center, which is going to kick it up to your package plant. Water, your water's going to have to be 5 feet below grade.
Great.
And then your storm is all running by gravity, and that's going to vary depending upon where you are.
John, you have?
I just have one comment. So one of the things the board's trying to do here is determine significance. The determination of significance is the end point here. And if you look at the Seeker Handbook, it says there are 2 elements to significance. One is importance, one is magnitude. Okay? So the question I'm asking is whether this is an issue that goes toward being able to make a judgment about magnitude. And perhaps, Christian, neither me or the members of the board come up against this exact question often. What information are you used to seeing the lead agency have in hand to be able to make a judgment about the question that's being asked here? And if it requires more information here, then that might be a topic of discussion.
Well, for projects like this, like if I was doing the project myself, and I'm not, if we knew that there was an issue of shallow bedrock or something within 5 feet, we would probably go out even before we did detailed design and just pop some holes, get an excavator out there for a day, day and a half, pop some holes, and then just locate where the rock surface is so we know what we're dealing with. So if we know that this rock, might be a nice grass surface, but then 18 inches below that is solid ledge, we may want to try to avoid that spot as best we could. Or
True, and that's a prudent thing to do. We just have concept plans at this point in time. We're just trying to get to the point of beginning detailed design, or at least getting some preliminary design to gain such information. Our final design is yet
We
to
have to
occur.
have something that we consider to be a finished design to approve. Not building design, but we have to know what we're doing there.
Right, but seeker identifies these
Yes, seeker.
issues,
Yes.
but
But I'm
doesn't,
talking about before we go to final approval.
for final approval, yes. We would have that information well before final technical site plan approval. By all
But the
means.
stuff that Christian is talking about.
Yes, I think we could do that immediately concluding seeker. We can start our initial preliminary design effort to find out more specific information in the field of how deep this bedrock is,
Right.
and then quantify it.
well,
We
frankly,
can recognize that bedrock is on site. Geological maps show that it's on site. We've all been to the site and seen the site. It is there. We're not dismissing that at all. We have, it's unfair to do a cut fill analysis because that would only quantify the mass excavation being soil and rock. I agree with you that some localized probes or drill rig could give us a little bit more information on a spot a base, maybe at a foundation of each of the buildings, and maybe at the deepest point, we put in a septic or the wastewater pump station, put one in there and just see what we're up against. But that would be when we would be starting our preliminary design. If you feel that this is a moderate to large impact, it's okay. We'll address that in our early stages of design.
Speaking of, really, the plans that you submitted are what I would determine far in advance of what a concept plan would be. There's some detail on it. You have grading, you have subsurface infrastructure shown. This is more of a intermediate, approaching final design. So I don't know that it's appropriate for the board to take action on seeker if you're then going to do your real design, because the board has to be content in the knowledge that what they're seeing right now and how they're responding to the questions in the EAF are going to make it all the way to final. And I'm not saying you have to have every single thing done now, but you have quite a bit already done.
We've populated the plans quite thoroughly with the information that's been requested to date. We agree. But it's concept plans that have been feasible, that have been thought out not only on our end of things and with the applicant side of things and the architect side of things, but also in responses to seeker questions and so forth. But if this is some information that you feel you'd like to know more about, we know we have to face it at some point. I'm not discounting that or kicking this can down the road, but that's going to be one of the first things we get to when we get to our more substantial design for next.
Here's my concern about that. One of the purposes of the environmental review exercise is, one of the things that the board's looking at are what are impacts during construction. And how can the board make an effective determination of significance based on a concept, and then the real impact of construction isn't going to be known till later? Then the environmental review would not have been sufficient because it wasn't based on a sufficient depth of information. The purpose of environmental review is to identify the potential adverse impacts as early in the process as possible and design mitigation before you get to the end of the process. So this is feeling like it's backwards to me.
I agree.
Well, yeah, and it feels sort of like I can just take, we're talking about the grading, I'm going to jump ahead, talking about stormwater. You've already prepared a stormwater pollution prevention plan. And that's an integral part of the design for the site development project. Ordinarily, even without a good SWIP, and I had some comments on it. I don't know if I'm going to have comments on the next round of it. You always do. That's something that usually gets nailed down before we start to try to go through the seeker process. Because if you wait until, and this actually happened to me in another town, they wanted to get their final approval from the planning commission out there. They want to get site plan approval and then prepare their SWIP. And I said, no, you can't. That's not the proper order.
Well, the SWIP is one of the early requirements for an application and so forth, so we at least have a preliminary SWIP prepared with the essential components. It is yet to be finalized. When the design is finalized, it's subject to your comments as well, but the meat of it is there. We know that rock is going to need to be dealt with here. And if we need to quantify that more to make the board comfortable, we can do that as a condition of seeker or something like that, or as a condition. Well, we should come back with some information.
Or a positive declaration.
That's right. You don't want that. I agree. I think I heard some rumblings over here. I'm in total agreement with John in terms of this just doesn't feel like the right order to me.
Melanie, would you mind using your?
I'm agreeing with you and the murmurs down here and John that this doesn't feel like the right sequence for me. I personally don't feel at all confident answering this question tonight. I don't think I have enough information. I don't think it's been explained to me. I'm cognizant of the issues that Christian is raising, and I don't believe we have to answer this question tonight. Jim is nodding ahead, and we can simply say we don't have enough information at this time, and leave it at that.
And I think this is letter C and D, right? Because D is the proposed action may involve the excavation and removal of more than 1,000 tons of natural material. So it ties directly into the next one. So I would say at this point, maybe the thing to do is to say you'd like more information in order to be able to answer these questions and see what we can pull together, and maybe see if we can move on to other ones. I think there are other questions we can answer regarding seeker, and we'll come back to this. But obviously, seeker can't be completed until we do this, unless the board feels like.
But it's not just that one, it's the one above it, because there are comments about if you really need to start disrupting bedrock, then you change patterns of water flow and so forth. So number 2 also needs more information. And we have to understand how much rock is there that is going to interfere with the concept.
I'm sorry, Edna?
I think we have to understand how much rock is there that would interfere with the
I
concept.
heard that part, but going back to number 2,
I'm just saying, Jim was pointing out that we need to be concerned about D, which has to do with removal of more than 1,000 tons of material. And I'm simply moving back to C.
okay, C. You said,
Exactly.
Okay, gotcha.
And I just circle back to what John had said, that there are sort of 2 features to this. One is the magnitude, which is a measurement that we have to determine, but also there's the significance or the importance issue, which maybe Christian can help us color that a little bit, as far as Christian, the importance of these 2 items. Like why do we care? Is it just the impacts during construction, or are there other downstream effects, like impacts that it might have on neighboring properties, on wetlands, on people's well yields, and that sort of thing?
I just want to say one other thing about this, is that another concern that this presents is that if, just to use an example, if you were to find out later on that there's a lot more rock there than was anticipated, and there are going to be impacts that are going to flow from that circumstance, it may, and we alluded to this when we were talking a little bit about the wastewater treatment facility, but it may require coming back and reopening the seeker process and going back to a reevaluation of the determination of significance, which is not really the efficient way to run the process, and it's not the way that seeker is going to work most effectively. I just want that on your radar screen.
So should we skip?
I think so.
Yeah.
And I just make a point, because I think we bumped up against this in another area earlier when we were talking about the design of the treatment plant. And we were caught in that, well, we can't tell you exactly what it's going to look like, because that makes us all uncomfortable, because we're being asked to make decisions, and not knowing what we're talking about leaves this sort of open-ended question. So I think, unless you disagree, any of you, I think we're ready to move on from this section at this time.
I agree.
And can Christian, would you be able to provide the board with some guidance as to what information, based on your experience, would be sufficient to be able to answer the question properly?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and put something together and provide that to the board.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to continue to sub E. The proposed action may involve construction that continues for more than 1 year or in multiple phases. EF indicates anticipated period of construction as 24 months to be constructed in really a single phase.
So the question is, the board feel that that would be a small impact or a moderate to large impact based on the timeline?
And it would be 24 months or more.
It's listed as 24 months total max.
Yeah.
It's listed as 24 months.
Yeah, listed as 24 months, but that would have to assume that all the different components of the site were constructed, as quickly as possible, because they're going to need to do something with the road for DOT. And then, of course, site improvements, bulk grading, potential rock removal, everything all the way through to constructing the package plant, drilling the wells, or putting the wells online into service, and constructing all the buildings. So it depends upon how much resources they can leverage to do all that within a 24-month span.
It's not like they're restoring a train station.
But the most disruptive parts would happen early on, right? Things like rock hammering, well drilling.
The site preparation, those would be the first things they have to go. And one of those would be the grading operation. Obviously, before they can put a single structure on the property, they have to get access into and out of the site, including the emergency access.
I'm just suggesting that the impact on the neighborhood is likely to be less as time goes on, so that when you're in the second year, you're going to be finishing interiors and so forth.
Yeah, and hopefully by that time they have their DOT entrance, the final configuration, whatever that might look like, they would have that done. But that's going to be subject to DOT authority and review.
So again, I put the guidance from the DEC up on the screen. Will there be an impact, and would it be small or moderate to large? So you can take a look at what the guidance says related to that. Any thoughts?
Is it phased in like site work versus improvements? Because I'm sure there's a lot of work that has to go on, electrical work and sheet rock and furniture, and windows, all that, which is very different from the bulldozers and rock hammers and stuff like that. Where there's clouds of dust.
Yeah, they do have a construction sequencing plan, and that's required as part of the obtaining coverage under the general permit for their SWIP. Establish your stabilized construction entrances first, set up your erosion control measures, silt fence, whatever, and then do your bulk grading. And obviously the DOT improvements, that's going to be almost like its own separate site plan that should be shown on the plans that are reviewed by this board, so they get an idea of what's going to be required. They have to put in an additional turning lane.
Yeah, that's what's on the left turn lane is in the concept now.
Okay. So there's going to be, road reconstruction, ripping up pavement, widening widening shoulders, detours. So all that's going to have to be enumerated. Now, that being said, that's all purview of the DOT, but should be included on the set of plans that the board ultimately approves. And they're inescapable things that you have to do. There's no way to shortcut it.
So it sounds like we're talking about 2 years of construction that is likely to be fairly continuous.
That's why the word intermittent is, I'm puzzled by that.
Yeah, it doesn't, it's not
Intermittent
going to
suggests to me that there's a starting and stopping, as opposed to continuous, which may go up and down, but it is.
Yeah, for example, there probably would not be a lot of construction during the winter months, especially with some forms of activities. They might be able to do rock removal during the winter months.
Like interior work.
Interior. Yeah, but the DOT is going to have limits on when they can work within the right way.
take a shot at this one, or should we think about this one and move to the next? Is this one
Well, it's going to be
something-
more than a year,
Yes.
but it will not be intermittent. And I don't know how you don't go to moderate.
I don't see how it could be no or small impact.
I don't need
If the criteria for that is that it's got to be 1 year or less, and it's already, we're at 24
And
fifty.
it's not intermittent in my opinion, so I can't see it as anything other than moderate.
Okay.
And others, I agree. Sharon? Okay.
All right, moving on to F, Christian will be going to D2E and Q. Proposed action may result in increased erosion, whether from physical disturbance or vegetation removal, including from treatment by herbicides. Pretty certain I'm reading there are no herbicides being proposed as part of this. So the discussion would be, will we look at increased erosion, physical disturbance or vegetation removal? And for that, I will definitely turn it over to Christian regarding the SWIP and other things.
Yeah, D2E, the provided answer was,
They don't always line up well.
yeah,
We found that the secret form is not always.
I just learned that myself.
Yeah, so you might just want to jump past that one.
Yeah, D2Q is the herbicide herbicide pesticide question. We answered no to that.
So can you discuss that maybe just in general, how this works related to erosion, sediment control, which is kind of, I think, a higher level discussion.
Yeah, regarding erosion, they're preparing a SWIP anyway. They're going to have to identify all the areas to be disturbed. There are going to be limitations on the total area of disturbance at one time. The total limit of disturbance for this project, I believe, is 4.9 acres, which is just below the 5-acre threshold. In New York State, you can only go beyond 5 acres of concurrent disturbance at any one time with the approval of the MS4 and the DEC, but they're staying underneath that. And that's really meant for very large 100-unit subdivisions where you have to construct those in phases because there's a greater risk of erosion if you just go in and clear cut, 10, 15 acres at a time. Which also includes tree clearing, as the DEC has recently modified their regulations. Unless you're going to go in there and just cut down one tree and just leave it there, that's not considered disturbance. When you go and clear multiple trees and take them out, the DEC considers that disturbance now for purposes of obtaining permit coverage. So based on that, what is the opinion of the board? No or small or moderate to large?
Question is, will the proposed action result in increased erosion, whether through physical disturbance or vegetation removal?
I think it's small.
Yeah,
It's going to be controlled.
I'm okay with small.
Agreed.
I agree. Okay.
And then the last question, G, is the proposed action is the proposed action is or may be located within a coastal erosion hazard area? The answer to that is no. So at the moment, we need to, we're requesting, I guess, more information on letter C for C and D. And we've answered E about the timeline as moderate for large impact, so we may come back to that and just ask for more information and decide whether we need to move on that. But I think the best thing to do is maybe move on, let's see if we can knock up a couple of others, then we can work on coming back around and seeing other details. So number 2, impact on geological features. The proposed action may result in modification or destruction of or inhibit access to any unique or unusual landforms on the site, such as cliffs, dunes, minerals, fossils, and caves. E2G.
E2G, the answer indicated is no. Unique geologic features, none. So then the answer to that would be no.
And I can say that as it comes to letter B, the action affecting or adjacent to a geological feature listed as a registered national and natural landmark, the answer to that is no. We have none of those anywhere near where we're sitting today. So I will answer that one for you if that's okay. And I would ask for the board to say, do you have any concerns, or just go with an overall no here?
I think it's no.
I agree.
All right, moving on to item number 3, impacts on surface water. The proposed action may affect one or more wetlands or other surface water bodies. We're going to start with question 1. Proposed action may create a new water body.
Yeah, I believe in the previous iteration that this was discussed, they are creating a new pond, but it's not going to be hydrologically connected to any existing bodies of water. It's designed to handle only, to mitigate the peak runoff rates from the proposed site development.
That's no.
No?
Everyone's good with no for A?
Yes, correct.
All right. Letter B, the proposed action may result in an increase or decrease of over 10% or more than a 10-acre increase or decrease in the surface area of any body of water.
My inspection.
The proposed action may involve dredging more than 100 cubic yards of material from a wetland or water body.
No.
The proposed action may involve construction within or adjoining a freshwater or tidal wetland or in the bed or banks of any other water body.
Yeah, right.
Yes, we do have 2 crossings through the wetland, just the buffer area, right on the edge of the wetland. One is for the access to proposed wastewater treatment plant and well. The other is for the emergency access road to Middle Road. It's right on the north end of the wetland that runs along Middle Road there. I believe those are the 2 points where we're crossing wetland buffers.
And those would be town wetland buffers?
Yes.
Because I thought the DEC had a JV, like no interest.
Jurisdictional determination was no interest.
Correct. That's something I'm So we do have action within or joining a freshwater wetland. Question for the board is, do you believe that was no or small impact or moderate to large impact? I can't say that one of the pipes or both of them exist. The one near Middle Road exists. There is a pipe that exists today in Middle Road. There's no road there, but there is a pipe. I don't remember if there was a pipe for the driveway leading to wastewater treatment. I don't think there was. I think that was a new pipe.
Existing.
It is existing. Okay, so both pipes are existing. They will be replaced. So there will be disturbance if they're already existing here.
So that means small.
Do you want to agree?
A small?
Yes.
Okay. The proposed action may create turbidity in a water body either from upward erosion, runoff, or by disturbing bottom sediments.
No.
The proposed action may include construction of one or more intakes for withdrawal from water, from surface water. The proposed action may include construction of one or more outfalls for discharge of wastewater to surface waters. D2D, I will turn that over.
The answer indicated is yes. Total anticipated waste generation per day is 7,200 gallons per day. And that's going to be sanitary wastewater from the hotel. The proposed action is any existing public wastewater treatment system. Nope, this is all going to be privately owned. And the new wastewater sewage treatment district will form the surface project site. The answer is no. And yeah, they're just going to be proposing an on-site package plant, bioclear system. It's going to be discharging to the stream that's currently on the property, and that's going to be subject to the review and approval of Wright Dutchess County Health Department and DEC in terms of any potential impacts to the water bodies.
So this is subject to a speedies permit?
Yes. Yeah.
And isn't there a limit where the nature of the speedies permit changes somewhere like around 10,000?
I believe it's around 10,000 gallons. It triggers something else. Anything over 1,000 gallons per day, that requires a basic speedies permit.
Right.
So between the 10 and 10,000, that's what a lot of these package plants will be anticipated to
I think
provide.
it comes down to the monitoring. They have to send somebody out like once a week instead of once a month, or
The way they look at it several things. They look at what's called the WAC, the WAC, waste assimilative capacity.
of the receiving waters that go into. What kind of waters are there? What kind of flow do you currently have in there? Is the proposed effluent discharge going to negatively impact anything in the stream or downstream of it? Is it connected to any other waterways that connect to intake sources for other drinking water sources? You know, the regulatory process goes through that just to make sure there's no package plant discharge to someone's well fields.
Right. Well, also, this is a unnamed tributary to the Rhinebeck Hill, and it's a feeble little creek right now.
It's probably an intermittent or ephemeral stream.
Yeah, is it at all relevant for us to know like what the flow rate of that is versus what's going to be added to it?
The board can certainly ask for any and all correspondence between the applicant and the regulatory authority to be aware instead of just saying, okay, we got our approval from DEC, here you go. We can ask for all the supplemental information if the board wishes to have a look at that.
I think it would be good for the board to take a look at that.
I think it's relevant, and it's certainly in line with the concerns of many of the neighbors, and, the nature of that discharge. And it's, of course, going to be treated chlorinated discharge, but
Yeah, the treatment standards depend upon the nature of the effluent and also what's receiving it. You know, if you have a more protected stream, say a trout stream or Class B or Class A waterway, the regulatory authority can require a higher level of treatment, final polishing, chlorination, in addition to the normal things that are included in wastewater treatment.
A question for Melody and Jim and John. This board also has, I believe, the authority to require a higher level of treatment. At least, I know it's going on in other towns, that they are not simply leaving it to the DEC. They have their own.
I think this came up before.
Right, this came up with another project, and we discussed this, and determined that the town doesn't have the ability to do that because we do not have a local law stating that we can do so.
We don't have a local what law?
A local law stating that the town can specifically require something more than the DEC requires.
I see.
We looked into this with prior projects.
So is that Rockledge Green?
Yeah.
Or maybe Grasmere?
So my understanding, based on what we did 6-8 months ago, was that we have to utilize what the DEC proposes. We can't require something higher than the state DEC requirement as far as that goes.
Unless the town board changed the law.
It's something that, I don't know exactly how that works, but yeah, we don't have the authorization.
The town board would have to put into place an entire program, so it would have to promulgate its own set of standards. There would have to be a basis for that, and then there would also have to be, they would have to put into place the infrastructure to administer the program, and to issue essentially their own version of the speedies permit. We're sort of a long way away from that.
I did, just to add to this, I did put together this document that I provided for everyone, kind of my write-up with a summary of relevant information for the determination of significance. Just pulling together all the information that we have been given. In Dutchess County Department of Health sewage flow confirmation letter dated September 5th, 2025, talked about the daily proposed system flow being 7,200 gallons per day. It was deemed by them to be acceptable by the county, subject to any additional requirements by DEC. But the final approval, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, the final approval by DEC appears based on the paperwork to be held up due to a lack of a secret determination. So we're kind of stuck in this circle we can't get out of. They're going to make a determination until we make a determination. So that's kind of where we are at the moment, as far as I can tell, unless you guys tell me I'm wrong. But I think they're not going to make a determination until we do, since that's what we've heard so far.
That's my understanding.
They did state that any requirements of the DEC will need to be met, and those may result in changes to the proposed project, it'll be necessary for them to bring it back to the county health department. So we're in this funny circular area right now where we either need to decide we need to make a determination or somehow reach out to DEC to see how we can stop this circle work. But the county health department did deem it was acceptable now, so we got that. I don't know if that helps. So the question again comes back to, does the proposed action include construction of one more additional outfalls for discharge of wastewater and surface waters? And if so, would that be no small impact, or would it be a moderate to large impact? Typically, we've relied a lot on our outside DEC, county health department reviews to assist us in that. Obviously, anything Christian can provide. I'm not sure.
Is there any guidance? You showed the little cheat sheet there. That might be where we should go next. It's the red wire, Gretchen, not the green one.
Doesn't appear we have much to go on here.
Okay.
Coastal erosion, SWIP. Nope, it's not giving us any guidance on this one specifically.
I don't know, part of me feels like this is a fairly typical application for the disposal of wastewater. It's going to be done under a speedies permit, and it's below that threshold value where there would be exceptional amounts of monitoring that need to be done. But it's also my recognition of the fact that we're asking the Rhinebeck Kill to do a lot of work for us. It already takes the outfall from the trailer park, which is 40 residences, and also for the village wastewater treatment. And this is all, chlorinated, treated water, and we're introducing it into a natural environment. So, and it's not a big, there's not a lot of flow there. So we're kind of adding to something that doesn't really have a lot of capacity to begin with. So I don't know, Christian, can you give us any idea of, like, if I'm talking right as far as scale is concerned, or
I'm talking the overall effect on receiving water.
the cumulative or cascading effect of putting all of these wastewater treatment plants that discharge into moving bodies of water and the size of those streams?
Well, in order to speak on the side of the stream, I need to have more information on the stream. But I just did a quick calculation here, 7,200 gallons per day. That is the equivalent of around 22 three-bedroom houses at 110 gallon per day per day. Just kind of an idea of the overall magnitude. For individual lots, normally we go with a septic system if they didn't have a central sewer. I would need to have more information on the stream before I could, properly offer an opinion on it. Obviously, if it's a large waterway, it probably wouldn't have much of an effect. If it was a small intermittent stream, in some cases with a proper level of treatment, it might actually help by providing additional flow to the stream so that whatever ordinarily lives in there now has water. Even though it's treated effluent, it's not something that you want to consume, but other organisms could utilize it.
I think we have wedge mussels downstream, if I recall. I don't think there's anything on site that's associated with the property itself, but there was some identification of some aquatic life.
And would that be directly tributary to where this plant is discharging to?
Yeah, downstream of that.
If we were to say moderate what would be the impact of that? What kind of additional information might we require?
Well, we could certainly request all information, as I said before, any information submitted to the regulatory authorities for the design, and any WAC assessment that was done on this water course or intermittent ephemeral stream.
John?
Yeah, as you can tell from the discussion that we're having, this is kind of a big picture question because there are a lot of variables and it begins to include factors that are off-site and also that have to do with the kind of long-term and long-range decision-making that's being made about an environmental resource. So getting back to what Jim said earlier, that typically, the DEC is an involved agency in this environmental review, and typically, since their task is to be looking at the bigger picture, that they have the information in hand about whatever other discharges are being made to this body of water, because there have been species permits that have been issued in association with them, that they have taken a look and at least made some determinations from a scientific and ecological standpoint about what the capacity of the body of water is, that all of those things are going to be brought to bear at the time when DEC considers the applicant's application for a species permit. This is an area where I think it makes sense for the board to defer to the expert. We defer regularly to the expertise of other agencies that have a wider scope of jurisdiction. And I think this is one of those areas where, the species permit process is quite detailed and a lot of information will be required. The board can participate in that process if they wish to and ask questions of DEC. But I think that in terms of, and I think that one of the reasons that more guidance is missing from the workbook on this is because DEC itself is presuming that the lead agency is going to defer to them on these kinds of questions. So I think it would be very difficult to try to put together reliable information at the kind of scope that would be required by this board, that would be required to answer some of the very good questions that are being asked.
But then why is the question there?
I can't answer that right now.
Well, I mean, we have to remember, John, you and I've said this many times, this form is used for everything from this project to, like used before, building a new Buffalo Bills stadium. I mean, this is the same form. So it is a very large scale form. It doesn't always work. As we said, we went through looking for some of the sub items. They don't even really match up all the time. It depends on the scope of the project. So, yep, again, that's why we have to keep in mind you have to do what you think makes the most sense using the information you have. And sometimes it's not going to fit, that peg quite perfectly because this is a large scale,
Yeah, and I would just add to that just from the conversations that I've had with folks at DEC about the forms is that one of the things they're really trying to do with the form is to just make sure everything gets thought of at this stage in the process. And Jim's right that it is kind of a one-size-fits-all approach, which it sort of has to be. And so there are some things that aren't going to fit, flush in every part of the process.
A related question. Once the DEC has either granted the speedies permit or tentatively granted it, there's a period of time during which the public can request a public hearing. I'm wondering if somebody from the DEC would actually be willing to come here.
The way that somebody did from the Dutchess County Department of Water
Exactly.
and Wastewater.
Yeah, and let's have a public hearing and let's have this board and anyone interested from the public ask questions and understand what is going to be done.
You could ask them to do that, reach out and ask them to do that. It's not something they get asked every day, but neither is that something that the the county Department of Water and Wastewater is asked every day. And it turned out that their appearance here was incredibly effective and beneficial.
And unexpected.
Yes, it was, yeah, but they did a great job.
Well, is this something that the board would like Jim to make a call on?
I think so, yeah.
Is this something the board would like to ask Jim to make a call on to see if this advice and resource would be available?
Yeah, I think if you want to do it, you should get that request out now, because typically, you know, it takes time for things to happen.
Well, there's nothing lost in having Jim make a request. Right. But you still have to decide whether you're moving on or we're going to make a selection.
So any thoughts on the impact?
Well, John has convinced me that it should be small.
I agree, but I really think
I would like to have more information from the DEC.
I'll reach out to DC and see what I can find out, whether they can come in person or provide more, whatever, I'll make a call.
And I think it would be useful for us to know that, just like, you know, going forward as well. And it's one of these things like the traffic issue. You know, you got the issue of what's going on the property and right in front of the property on the adjacent crossroads, but also there's the downstream effect of what might be happening at the light or coming out of IXL Gym. And, you know, those things are all interrelated to what's being proposed for this site. And I think we are appropriately following the hard look standard that our community is well aware of.
I also believe Christian suggested that we could ask for any correspondence or detailed information that you have received as you've been talking to DEC. If we could fill out the files with that, that might also be helpful.
I think my first call would be, yeah, I'll talk with Christian and we may talk with you guys and then we'll talk with these and figure out what makes the most sense. I don't want to make a call we don't have to.
Okay.
So we'll coordinate that.
So I believe you're saying small here? Yeah, John?
I was just going to say, it might, Jim, warrant some discussion in part 3, just to highlight that this issue was raised. The board had concerns about it, and you know how we've sort of decided to resolve it at this point.
Everybody okay with it?
Yeah.
Sure. So are we just gonna, you know, kind of adjourn that,
I think we should know.
Then we said no or small.
no, we're small?
Yep. The next one is the action may cause soil erosion or otherwise create a source of stormwater discharge that may lead to siltation or other degradation of receiving water bodies.
Okay, and as stated before, they are preparing a SWIP, which contains erosion control measures and long-term permanent maintenance.
So that should be small.
Yes.
The action may affect the water quality of any water bodies within or downstream of the site of the proposed action.
And they're preparing a SWIP.
So, is everyone shaking their head, no or small impact?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to hear it on because I don't want to make a decision
Right.
for it. It's not my call.
Pending further undisclosed information.
Letter J, the proposed action may involve the application of pesticides, herbicides in or on any water body. There will be none used on the site at all, from my understanding. What we read. The action may require the construction of new or expansion of existing wastewater treatment facilities. Obviously, the answer to that is yes. So, Kristen, I can turn that over to you, just to maybe walk through that quickly, or if anyone needs to walk through, or I think we know where that is, we discussed it quite a bit last time.
Well, it goes right back into the answer for 3G. You're going to require the construction of a new package plant. And let's see, that was D1A. D1A, they identify 60 guest room hotel. And D2B, generation of liquid waste, yes, 7,200 gallons per day. So that's the same answer as we had before.
Yeah, I think we discussed this and we've agreed it's small.
Okay, so that finishes those questions.
Unless there were any other impacts on
Right.
the grid. Unless there's any, there's other impacts under impacts to surface water. These are general open questions.
Well, Lorraine, we can always discuss it again later, but I think we'll move on at this point then. Impact on groundwater. The action may result in new or additional use of groundwater or may have potential to introduce contaminants to groundwater or aquifer. Obviously, we're looking at new use of groundwater, so we will go through the sub-questions. The first one says the proposed action may require new water supply wells or create additional demand on supplies from existing water supply wells. D2E.
Okay, and then D2C, I think. The answer is yes, and their anticipated water usage demand is 7,200 gallons per day, which balances nicely with their proposed wastewater disposal. I think in earlier versions of the EAF, they had indicated a higher draw from the proposed wells. I think it was like 11 to 14,000 gallons per day. I think they brought that down, so 7,200 gallons per day. And it's going to be from their own private supply, not from an existing public water supply. No water line extension within the district is going to be necessary to supply this project. So no new water districts are going to be created to serve this. If the water supply is to be from wells, public or private, what's the maximum pump capacity? They indicate 9.6 GPM. I believe they're going to have more than one well, correct? Just one well. And was that the stabilized rate, the 9.6 gallons per minute?
Yes.
And is that going to be enough to supply the site?
Yep.
This is the well site right here. This is just the one.
Right.
So then I open it to the board, whether or not, what sort of impact may be taking place.
I think we're on the well. What's the question again?
Well, whether or not you think it's going to be no or small impact or moderate to large.
But what?
For
it's
4A.
4A. For the new supply well, create additional demand.
Well, it's definitely going to do that.
Yeah, well, it's going to require a new water supply well.
So this is the question related to what's the type and size of the use? Does the project make use of groundwater resources? Is it located over near them? How much water be used for what purpose? So will there be an impact? And what is the small impact?
Could I ask that you try and use your mics?
Yep, sorry.
It's really hard to hear all of it if you're not used to your mics.
So I just brought up the DEC sheet to help provide guidance on assessing the impact on groundwater.
The applicant did a drawdown test, but it only involved 2 wells within the area. And one of them showed, I think it was a 58-foot depression,
Right.
but it recovered within what was considered to be an acceptable time according to WSP. But I think that there's an ongoing concern among the neighbors that this may be a little bit water hungry as far as the supply that is available within that aquifer.
Can I just offer some clarification, if I may? That 58-foot drawdown was the well itself.
It's on the well
It's not
itself.
pulling down our own well.
Okay.
And for the sustained period of 3 days, that's what dropped 3 feet. The 2 wells that were monitored, who chose to participate in the monitoring, drew down 9 feet, and the other one drew down unappreciable amount. Those are in the report, but I just wanted to clarify that the 58 wasn't a neighbor. or
Yeah,
anything.
that was the actual, that was actually your
Actual-
72-hour drawdown test.
Yes.
Okay. And how many other wells would be in the radius of concern? You said you had 2 willing participants. How many others would be in that
I
area?
think it was 11. I was going to say 10 to a dozen. You're right. But those are shown on the map in the WSP's report. Those are gray, but they're identified. And all the neighbors within that circle of radius were notified and/or approached, and either they declined or did not respond. There was an attempt to reach everybody. But the biggest drawdown was in the vehicle. So I just want to clarify.
Yep. And how fast did that recover? It did take all, from what I recall, it didn't take all that long to recover from the 50.
Correct. It did not take too long to recover. I can get the precise, but it's in the report.
It's in the report. Yeah, I'm reminded of Rockledge. The board had asked for a much, very wide ranging survey of wells. So I believe there were at least 12 to 14 wells, I think, participated in the drawdown test at that time. I don't know if the board is concerned about effects farther away, or whether they're content with the 2 wells that the 2 neighbors who agreed to participate in the review.
Do you feel like 2 wells can provide sufficient information?
Oh, there we go. Okay, so based on that, you have 1 well, which is the one right along 9G. And that's the one indicated there in green along the highway. And then the one across the road further back. So you have one that's approximately half the radial distance from the test well, and one that's on the outer limit. And those tended not to show a substantial drawdown. It stands to reason that others may not also experience the same drawdown. It's up to the board what kind of information you would find acceptable, although to ask for more information would be requiring these individuals to participate. I don't know if I just don't think it's possible to compel them to participate in it.
May I ask a question, Christian? The neighbors, I think, ask a very interesting question. And that is, you have a 60-unit hotel, assume capacity and assume 2 people in each unit, 120 people. The neighbors point out that at hotels, people generally get up in the morning and take a shower and go about their business. So you could easily, within, let's say, a 2-hour period, have 120 people taking showers. Does that affect capacity?
It would affect the withdrawal of the water from the well, because you're going to have those peak, it's called a peaking factor. What we do is, 7,200 gallons per day. Now that it's not continuous 24 hours, same draw, same draw, same draw. You have a peak in the morning, noon, and in the evening. And
But how do you know that you can meet the need of the peak based on what's been done so far?
that would have to be in their the report that WSP did in terms of capacity. And do you have any holding tanks on the property, or is it going to be just direct well draw?
Yes, it's proposed that each building have a holding tank to help out with peak loads and pressures in the mornings and so on.
Okay, about how big are those tanks, each building?
Those have not been quantified yet because those would be done at the MEP design side of the phase and the architectural phase. But that is a consideration, and that this well has, in the instance that the in the sewage discharge world, there is a peaking factor for this size project of 2. What WSP has put in here, a factor of 2, which is the 14,400 gallons. So with that said, that's rare that it would be peaking, but the wastewater numbers that drive the demand, which create the 7,200, are from wastewater 10 state standards, and wastewater unit, treatment unit is matched up to the draw of the average daily demand, the 7,200. So that's why those two numbers match up. Water use in peaking is instantaneous, can be more instantaneous. As we know, wastewater treatment happens over a duration. There is capacity in the wastewater systems. There's a septic tank for each building designated on the plan. So there's gallonage there. There's gallons in the wet well of the septic, of the pump station as a capacity. There's also going to be an equalization capacity at the treatment unit itself up the road.
So you're going to put a surge tank at the package?
Yeah. So when people decide to take their showers in the morning, there is capacity within the septic tanks, 3 separate ones as a matter of fact. So building number 2 might take more showers than building number 1 at any given time. But the point is, there's capacity in each of those septic tanks. There's also capacity at the pump station. There's capacity at the treatment plant. Because the treatment plant is just putting out 5 gallons per minute, max, 7,200 gallons per minute.
But your septic tanks, even though you have one for each building, that's really dead storage. Once the septic tanks are full, water's going to flow into it, then it's going to flow out at the same rate. It's not going to function like a surge tank. So I don't know that I would account for volume of septic tanks in terms of sewage surging. And what you say is correct. You are going to have a little bit of dosing volume in your pump chamber when it kicks. But your surge tank up at what we call the headworks of the package point, that's where you're going to get your attenuation. You're going to get your kicks, and then the process is going to trickle it out at whatever continuous rate that's going to be, 5 gallons a minute or 2 gallons a minute. So I wouldn't assume any volume in your septic tanks.
Okay, the WSP water well is for the water drawdown test, the 72-hour test itself. H2M is our wastewater engineering company. He's not with us tonight, but he is who has specified the BioClear system and sized it appropriately based upon WSP's water report.
But I'm moving back to fresh water. The neighbors are concerned that between 7 o'clock and 9 o'clock, they won't have enough water. And so what I'm hearing is that there will be a storage tank at each building, and assuming that the storage tank is large enough, then that eliminates, to a large extent, this issue.
Yeah, think of it the way if you have large elevated storage tanks, say for a municipal water system. Elevated tank, you put it on the hill. The wells run fairly constantly to raise the level of the tank to provide that storage, which is drawn during the day. There are all kinds of ways you can time it and add more wells, turn more wells on if you need to. Let's say you have a water main break, or you have a fire where there's a huge instant demand, which is tens, hundreds of thousands of gallons potentially in a more urban situation. Then you would have the wells running at a lower continuous rate to bring that storage back up to the acceptable levels. In this case, they're just doing it with individual tanks inside each building.
Good. So then I would say it's small.
We did get a letter received recently from the neighbors, and one of the things that's mentioned in there is their desire that another analysis be done on the wells. That it sort of implies that the signatories of the letter would be willing to allow the test to be done on their property, which would amount to about 9 of the 11 wells. Would we learn anything valuable about that, or is the 2 wells that were tested, is that sufficient to say that this is going to be a small impact?
I'm going to just add to that question, a related issue is that is the testing of the 2 wells sufficient to constitute a hard look at this issue pursuant to secret?
I'd like to, take another look at those results from WSP again, just to see if there's anything odd. My gut tells me no, but having additional data doesn't hurt anybody. I can have someone in my group, take a look and see if there's any concerns, if there's any correlation, any direct correlation between the test well drawdown and the effectively the observation wells. And I can get back to the board on that.
And I think from reading the report, it seems like a number of the neighbors were, had notes put in their mailboxes, doors were knocked on, nobody was home, it was during the week, and it seems like many of them are only around on the weekend. And so maybe a further step into that, that reality that we do have, people who aren't around, they're, maybe working during the week and are only available on the weekend. And maybe a fresh look that people might be a little more willing to subject to the testing. I think we would have more assurance that this isn't having a profound impact on global water supply.
Do you know what the county does when they review this? Because the county has signed off. Again, I just want to put this out there because I did report there. Ranges of water supply have been reviewed by Dutchess County Department of Health, and a notice of approval was issued. The letter dated May 30th, 2023. The approval is valid for an installation done in complete conformity with the approved plans for a period of 5 years from the date of the approval letter.
The approval letter was dated when?
23.
23, so it's...
But do you know what that entailed? I mean, do they look at drawdowns and consider the discussions we've just had?
Oh, yeah. If they saw any red flags, it would have been flagged by DOH.
So again, I just bring it up because it's kind of a similar discussion, sort of, I think it's a different discussion, but similar in nature of what we're discussing with DEC and some of these decisions of outside agencies. Sometimes we rely on them. So they have provided approval. Just.
I know this isn't a public comment time, but could I ask a question?
You have to come up, Catherine.
Thank you. I just want to ask a question to try and understand a couple of things. Thank you. Catherine Clark, 61 Lane. Since they did this 72-hour test, I think one of the things that we were concerned about is they're going to be drawing down that amount of water all the time. Is there any particular test that looks at that in terms of the impact on the groundwater?
What do you mean drawing down that level all the time? Are you talking regarding the 72-hour drawdown test?
Yeah, they did the 72 hours, their wells pumping away, I guess. But if this is approved and built, they're going to be doing that every day, no?
No, what you ought to think of the 72-hour drawdown test is like a stress test. If you go in the hospital, you get a stress test, they put you on the treadmill, and they have you march until you think you're going to die. It's a 72-hour test where they run the well at the maximum rate that it can run until it gets to a stabilized level, stabilized drawdown, which is 58 some odd feet. And then they maintain that pumping rate, and they see, and they observe the satellite wells or the observation wells, and that's stressing the well to a degree typically far beyond what it's ever going to see in its normal service line.
I'm not asking, I don't think I'm asking the question.
I think what she's asking is there any test to show what long-term this will do to drawing down the water?
A 72-hour test is not going to indicate that.
Well, I know that. She's asking, is there any test that will show long-term drawdown of groundwater?
I don't know of any test that would cover that, except for just running the well at infinitum and then watching the drawdown of the adjacent wells. What kind of time frame are you looking at? Years? Because it's just not feasible to run a well for years to
I go back
draw down on.
to, yeah, I go back to your comment that this is equivalent of 22 three-bedroom houses on a very small plot.
It's tough to manage.
You know, that's a lot of water that's being drawn out of the aquifer all the time. That's one of our concerns. And just, I'll quit because I'm not supposed to be making comments. I just wanted some clarification. But I appreciate you.
Yeah, and just for comparison here, it's a quick math, the 7,200 gallons per day of what they're estimating, if you were to just annual it and just run that over an entire day, it's 5 gallons per minute. So if the well was running constantly, 5 gallons per minute, that would give you your 7,200 gallons per day. And they were running their well at about 8.9 GPM.
I think around 10.
Around 10.
Up to the 10.
Yeah, so they'd be running this well under their, what they would be allowed to under the Speedies permit at half the rate that they were running the 72-hour drawdown test.
I would be curious why the number of what they were anticipating using a day went from 13,000 something to 7,200 to match the outflow to the sewage. It used to be higher, and I don't know what changed, you know, to bring that number down that much.
I think you've explained before that they were using a factor of 2. So that's 7,200, they took that and doubled it for the safety factor.
Yeah, they were using a peaking factor to determine the maximum instantaneous rate of flow that they would need to serve the site. Because all your, think about at your own house, you toilet, shower, kitchen in the morning, and then you don't use it for several hours. So that peaking factor accounts for those instantaneous uses when you're using it. It wouldn't, one toilet flushing is not gonna show up, but preparation of food, showers in the morning, kids getting ready, that's going to be the maximum demand typically in the morning.
Was it also related, was the reduction also related to the change from a full kitchen to just the reduced functionality of that?
I believe that was a factor in the reduction. Because originally they thought that it was going to be like a full-service restaurant.
Correct. That was my understanding.
But that's not the case. As we,
Well, I was asking if that was considered kind of reduction.
yes.
So there's a, just to put up, there's a table in the water, I don't know if I was going to find it. There's table 1 in this document that details the draw and just what the numbers have been saying, it's 5 gallons, 10 gallons. So they do provide with us with the average daily demand, the maximum daily demand, and then the water usage gallons per minute. So I just wanted to put out there that those numbers aren't in the report. But I also wanted to note that the report, and we talked now about there's going to be storage in the unit, in the buildings. This report did say that well 1 with the well pumping cycle will be on and off to meet the average system demand. So it's likely to draw down less than was measured during the test and is not expected to affect the future off-site wells. But it sounds like the well's not planned to be running 5 gallons per minute, 24 hours a day. It's going to be on and off, I guess, to fill until it fills the units. I don't know if you can explain that a little better.
Yeah, when they first construct the building and get the water system online, they're going to have to initially fill the tanks. And however, 5,000 gallons, 6,000 gallons, I don't know what size tanks you're conceiving for the buildings, but that would be, an initial filling. And then as the site's operated,
the drawing from the tanks that are already full, and just when the level gets a little bit too low, the well pump will kick on, and will provide water to refill the tanks and add pressure to the system.
So it's not necessarily drawing 5 gallons per minute, 24 hours a day, I guess is what I'm saying.
No, when you're looking at this, you know, you can assume 7,200 gallons over 1,440 minutes and get that average rate, but that's what the peaking factor's for, you know, because you're gonna have those instantaneous demands or elevated demands in the morning, lunchtime, evening, and those are all ameliorated by having the in-building storage. Or if you weren't doing in-building storage, they would have an elevated storage tank to provide the capacity, probably the pressure to it.
So when the Department of Health, I think, approved this, I think that's what you said, they said that you need 7,200 gallons or something, and your well will pump this much. So there's no, I think what I'm hearing is that there's not a way to really consider what does almost doubling the water usage for that neighborhood do over the course of a couple of years to the aquifer and the water that's available for the residential wells. I think you're saying there's no way to really look at that.
Well, the department, they provided that will serve letter blessing the 7,200 GPM, right?
Yeah, I think that's what
I mean, that's really it. I mean, I don't know that the health department takes that long a view of it. I probably shouldn't say it that way. If the health department is aware of problems with people's wells in a certain area, they tend to look a lot closer at any water supply applications that are taken out within a certain distance of a well that's, you know, let's say this person's well was drilled 80 years ago and it's barely providing a trickle. They might want to take a look and see, is it something being drawn out somewhere else, or is there overall change in hydrologic patterns in the area due to someone putting in a new culvert or diverting a stream? In this case, you know, the will serve letter from the health department takes a lot of that into account.
But I think that what that emphasizes is that the health department letter only goes so far as the information that's known about this. And I mean, I don't want to speak for board members, but my take on it as an observer is that this is one of the most important questions that is being presented in the environmental review. And toward the beginning of this conversation, I presented a question to Christian about whether there's sufficient information with the 2 wells participating to be able to say that the board fulfilled its obligation to take a hard look at the potential impacts with this issue. I'm wondering whether with some of the neighbors here, whether the board can ask whether they're sufficiently organized to, if Christian is going to need, as he indicated, to take some time to look at this a little bit in more detail and maybe perhaps talk with some of your colleagues about it in that same time period to make good use of the time, whether, I don't know whether the neighbors are organized sufficiently to be able to come back to the board and provide a definitive list of property owners that would definitely be willing to participate in another drawdown test if that were done.
Are we kind of doing some public?
Leave it to the chair to
Are we
decide.
tolerating some more public comments?
Yes, so if you could directly answer John's question without going off into other areas, because I'm conscious of where we are in this evening's meeting and I want to keep us on track. We are not yet at the public hearing part of this evening, and so I'm trying to be mindful of that.
I agree. I will not wander.
I will stop you if you do.
I want you to.
Go to the microphone.
Can I provide a handout?
Can you just answer?
Give it up, pass it down.
Sure. And to be fair.
John's asking a very specific question as to whether or not you have information or can address the question of whether neighbors willing to participate in another project.
Yeah, absolutely. The graphic visualizes what the neighbor's concern is about the water demand.
Which I think we know.
Okay. To answer the specific question, we have not, as a group of neighbors, specifically discussed allowing additional testing of our wells. We have discussed that we were not really thrilled about the approach the first
You know
time.
what, you've told us before
Yeah.
about how the approach failed to meet the needs of some of the neighbors. That's not the question.
Right.
We're trying to discuss, can we go back to this? So you're indicating that you haven't had conversation with your
But
neighbors.
we can.
So is that?
But I have a clarifying question to ask. Let's assume that the neighbors don't want to have their wells touched, okay? Does the town, I don't have a question for the planning board, I have a question for according to the town code, and I'm going to have to ask Mr. Lyons this, I believe. Does the town have the ability to request that the developer create an escrow or a bond of any sort that would be used to remediate any impact to the neighbor's wells over a defined period of time? Because I'll qualify the question with a statement. We are in completely uncharted water here with this project. We are dropping you don't have the picture of the plan up there, we're dropping a huge demand on the aquifer in the middle of a residential neighborhood.
We understand.
Okay, so can you answer my question about the escrow?
Yeah, but probably, there has to, in order to try to do something like that, there would have to be, there'd have to be substantial evidence in the record to show that there's a basis for requiring that.
Okay.
And so that's at the bottom of the request, to try to assemble as much information as possible at this stage of the game to be able to try to address that issue. I think it would be much preferable to get more information earlier and to be able to take a shot at more proactive mitigation or other solutions rather than trying to, the idea of in planning, trying to fix something later is the last resort.
I understand that, but we feel as though we're being guinea pigs in terms of the water demand for this project.
Well, you have to remember that anytime significant new development is being introduced into an area, I mean, there's a version of this sort of calculus that happens all the time, and part of the way that we try to address that is, seekers design, and the reason it's mandated by law to happen at the beginning of the process and before we get into site plan review is to try to figure out these issues at this juncture, because it makes sense for you guys and it makes sense also for the applicant and for the town to do that as well.
Yeah.
And I understand the reticence perhaps of the neighbors, but if you guys really want the board to have the best information that the board can have about this, I would urge you that you should open your minds to participating in the testing. That's really, that's something that's objective, and it may not satisfy the concerns that you have that Catherine described about the long term, but as Christian said in his remarks earlier, the more information that the board has, the better, and it leads to better decision making.
Yeah, understandable, and we're not completely closed-minded to the prospects of additional testing, but to your point, it's always point in time, and there is a concern. Many of us plan on being in our residences for multiple years, and we just we don't want to be facing unnecessary expense to remediate a problem caused by this project.
Understood, but we need you guys to help us by helping yourselves by participating. That's the way I see it.
Okay, thank you.
We're organized enough to ask people.
So I'm hearing from you that yes, you feel you can reach out to your neighbors and get us concrete information about how many people are willing to participate.
By the next planning board meeting, that this would be on the agenda.
All right, thank you. All right,
March
we're gonna-
2nd.
I don't know what the
March
answer will be, but.
March
we can
2nd,
find out.
That would be March 2nd.
Catherine, that March 2nd is the next planning board meeting where this will be on the
Oh,
agenda.
okay.
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 Okay, but obviously, the sooner you have that information, the sooner we can convey that to the applicant.
Okay.
And then they will have some time to consider their response to that.
And I want to be clear too, that I'm just the board's counsel, okay? The board members make the decision about this, and requesting this information is not a guarantee that the board's going to decide to go in that direction. But understanding who's willing to participate may make a difference to the board members and when they're considering that when it comes up.
Yeah, because I
Okay.
think it's a balancing act here. If you come back and tell me only one more person is willing to participate, that may be different than telling me that 7 are willing to participate. So I think it's a fact-finding mission at this time.
Yeah, and I mean, it's also possible that, Christian comes back and says, you don't need any more information. I've looked at this in depth and I'm convinced that a hard look's been taken. That's a possibility as well. You guys will just have to crunch the information that you get back from the neighbors, back from Christian, and make a decision based on everything that's in front of you.
Right, and I just want to point out that if the neighbors decide to partake, you're going to have to do another 72-hour drawdown test to measure the effects. As long as you're aware of that, I know you may not want to do that, but if the neighbors want to partake this time around, you may need to do another test.
We'll be up to them to decide. I'd like you guys back.
I'll discuss that with my client, and then we'll get back to the board.
We understand it's a question to you and you need to discuss it with your client. and they'll have-
No, I was addressing Christian's comment.
Okay. I'd like you guys back here and remind us where we are and
I think we're on 4A. We're just still on the first one.
So we were on A, it sounds like from the conversation, maybe we will skip A and B at the moment.
Yeah, those two are related.
Maybe go to C.
C, the proposed action may allow or result in residential uses in areas without water and sewer services.
The answer is yes.
The answer is yes. D1A,
So-
D2C.
The question is, does it create an impact or not? I mean, obviously, we're creating a new, well, actually, it's not a residential use, it's a commercial use, isn't it? So it would be residential use, so it would be no.
that's correct.
Sorry. I
That's
misread it.
another one that
We
we
know.
can't actually answer, because it deals with water supply.
No, actually, well, it's asking about residential uses. It's not actually residential use, it's a commercial use. The answer to this would be no, because it's not residential use. Even though it's not residential use by definition.
Yeah, because they identify 60 guests from the hotel under D1A.
I'm sorry, I read it.
Okay, so that's a no.
So I believe that would be no, unless the board wants this.
No?
Okay, question 4D, the proposed action will include or require wastewater discharge to groundwater. And that's no, this is going to be discharge to surface waters. No impact. 4E, proposed action may result in the construction of water supply wells in locations where groundwater is or is suspected to be contaminated. And I believe when they did their testing, they ran a full part 5. And that day, nothing came back, so that would be,
That would be a no.
normally I would be answering these questions from my own projects, but I bite my tongue on that. I have to leave the answers to. 4F, proposed actions may require bulk storage of petroleum or chemical products over groundwater or an aquifer.
I don't believe there are any petroleum or chemical products proposed on site.
Question on that one, your well and your wastewater treatment plant, those are going to require backup power, correct?
Correct.
What is going to be the emergency source of backup power?
Generator.
Fueled by what?
Propane's an option.
Is an option?
Based on what we did with Rockledge, if it's propane, we would answer no to this. If it's any other fuel, it would be an answer of yes.
Right. So I think in that case, we need to,
Highly recommend propane.
So is the answer could be propane or is propane?
It will be propane.
yeah, they answered no to it. Will propose actions including bulk storage of petrol, combined capacity of over 1,100 gallons, or chemical products 185 gallons and above ground storage, or any amount of underground storage. What are you proposing for your water treatment?
Sorry? Sean, we have a question.
I'm sorry.
There's also a question there regarding other chemicals, in excess of 185 gallons. Will you be stockpiling any chemicals for water treatment? Chlorine, any other water additives, I don't know what you have planned.
I can't answer that specific question. It's
So we'll
these
just
two
leave
items.
that, we'll just skip that one.
What question is that though, so I can just flag it for my notes?
4F.
Where?
Yeah, for and any EAF, it is question U2P.
I have a question for you. Do they designate the quantity considered bulk? You know, a couple 25 gallon versus 500 gallons.
Well, for petroleum, they indicate, is it going to exceed a combined capacity of over 1,100 gallons?
So,
And then that's for, petroleum, or chemical products, 185 gallons. And they have to provide the answer to that.
okay.
It's your question. Okay, so we're leaving this one open in public areas? All right.
And question 4G, another one coming back to us. Proposed action may involve commercial application of pesticides within 100 feet of potable drinking water or irrigation sources. Previous answers to this question indicate.
No use of pesticides.
And then 4H, just any other impacts that the board may want to consider.
Okay. Jim, you want to summarize?
Okay. So we have now gone through all but 4 of the items in the seeker. Based on today, we do still have questions for 1C and D, which is related to the amount of material that we removed. We've had a question about item 2, or 3, 2 clear as no, item 3, hydrant surface water was in the full no. And item 4, we have questions about A and B, related to water supply and drawdown of demand, as well as bulk storage of petroleum chemical products. So we've done the majority of those 4.
So you got through at least with minus the ones we didn't answer, the sections we intended to get through tonight. There is still some public here. And, there's public hearing underway. If there are any additional comments that haven't been made.
I'm assuming the public discussion will continue.
We're going to continue the public hearing.
Yeah, because the dialogue here did bring up several questions, but
Yes.
happy to hold those until next time. given
Okay.
that it's-
I really appreciate you taking the time to let us ask some questions because that helped quite a bit.
Good.
In terms of understanding some of the variables and what some of these tests actually do. So I'd be fine holding any public, I think any comments would be kind of redundant to what you already know.
Follow on, for the next meeting with the public comment period, will Mr. Moore be at that meeting as well? Because some of those questions will land with you, sir.
If the board asked me to come, I'll come.
It was very helpful.
We appreciate your comments, we appreciate your questions. All of them help us to do a better job. And I think you can, I appreciate, express my appreciation to the board. These are very difficult sections of seeker to go through. They're very technical, they're very detailed, and we understand that they are important questions to the neighbors and things that need to be considered. Some sections are much easier than others. These are the very nitty-gritty, detailed sections, and I want to express my appreciation to Christian for being here and certainly helping me to understand things a lot better than when the meeting started tonight. So there are still questions to be answered, and we'll continue to strive for the best answers we can come up with. So with that said, may I have a motion to continue the public hearing to
Second.
March
March 2nd.
March 2nd, so second to second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, and I think Jim will be communicating with you guys about some things here going forward, right? In terms of talking to.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the board taking the time to really go through this thoroughly.
We have two, I hope, very quick CBA referrals that Jim can take us through. Good evening, everybody. Jim?
First one is a project on South Mill. Seen it before. You're not, this is actually right there. Yeah. We saw this before. This is the property that just a foundation that was built a couple of years ago. We saw someone that came in, wanted to put a house on top of that foundation, went through the review with them. I guess they decided they didn't want to do it, someone else is coming and wants to do something with the property. So we had not seen that yet at the planning board. We've always seen it at the planning board. They're not here yet, they're in front of the ZBA. So someone does not want to build on top of the foundation, but they're also looking to put an accessory structure at the back of the property somewhere around here. Not exactly where. So they want to put a driveway in, make generally along the alignment of what you see here, and then coming back into here. There is an easement with Senior Hudson somewhere back in here, and they're proposing that this will be built very close to that line of the easement, but City of Hudson has signed off on it, saying as long as they put fencing up marking where that line is, they're okay with the accessory structure overlooking the easement. So the reason they're into the ZBA and it's coming to you for referral is that they're looking for a variance for the accessory structure space per acre total. So they're looking at having 4,435 square feet on the lot. They're only allowed to have 2018, they're looking for a variance of 1,118 square feet of habitable space, which essentially is the entire accessory dwelling unit.
So the accessory building is a dwelling unit?
It will be, they propose as an accessory dwelling. And it will be coming to the planning board, it has not yet. We've seen it in the pre-con.
How big is the accessory dwelling in total? You said 4,000 for the total lot.
4,435 square feet of accessory structure space total. The way the code is written, it's kind of funny, but they're looking for a variance of 1,118 square feet, and that's the size of the accessory structure.
1,000, not 4,000.
Just over 1,000 square foot.
Okay. So I was going to say it's actually the primary dwelling, and it's defined as the accessory because it's in the back of the property rather than the front.
I can find the plans if you want me to take them off.
Would we say something like it challenges the rural character of the area?
The applicants are saying that it's going to be used as a summer house.
The back?
Yes.
To be fair, it is a 14-acre lot. It's not one of the smaller lots now.
Yeah.
So it's a larger lot, and it is way in the back here when anyone will see it.
But
So-
up on that, there's like a big embankment there, right?
There's a
Big
no, yeah,
drop
and it
off.
drops down.
Yeah. And then what's across the creek there, across the kill?
Fox.
Boomer, no, doesn't have.
Close to Johnson.
Yeah, over and over.
I don't see anything striking as,
I would say like without walking the lot and knowing what the lot limitations are, it's really hard for me to draw an opinion on if I think that that makes sense or not. But by general point of view, having an accessory dwelling far back on a lot, I don't see a problem with. But if it's specifically that location, I just wouldn't know.
Well, they're not-
Look before us as a planning board.
They're technically not into the location, right,
Yeah.
for the size, so.
Okay, right. fair
So
enough.
in theoretically, if they get the size variance and we decide you don't like it there, you can tell them to move it, and if it's the
Yeah.
same size, they're still okay.
Yeah.
They're only coming in for the size, so are you okay with
1,000 square feet.
1,000 square foot over what is allowed, permitted by code in terms of accessory?
14 acres.
Not 14, yeah, so they're gonna have, wait a minute, let me redo this.
So, yeah, 1,000 square feet over, am I getting the math wrong? Then the total square feet, you're still just talking about an accessory dwelling of 1,500 square feet or something? I just want to make sure I understand the size of
Yeah,
the
that sounds
accessory.
like it's 4,000 for accessory buildings, and they want to go 1,000 over.
They wanna go 1,000 over,
So it's a
right?
That's
5,000
5,000
square
feet.
foot
No, no, no.
accessory building, is that what we're talking
Yeah,
about?
that's what they're saying.
That's a house, that's a huge house.
Yeah, okay, hold on.
Wait a minute.
They are 1,118 square feet over what is permitted for habitable space. The accessory dwelling unit will be just over 2,000 square feet, but the total accessory space, hold on, let me start again. I'm gonna pull up the material. I'm getting over it in a second, I'm just not even reading my own stuff right, so give me 1 second. They're asking for variance of 1,118 square feet of habitable space on a 14-acre lot. That I can tell you.
Okay.
And beyond that, I've got to open the file now because I'm confusing myself.
What district is this in?
It's in the,
Yeah,
you're right, 10.
That's the Landsman's Kill, and the scenic Hudson easement runs along the river embankment.
Check that, so it looks.
They're right up, they're right up. All right, so again, we're not reviewing this for the purposes of a site plan, it will be coming to us eventually, but this is what they're proposing. This will, oops, let me find a better shot. This is what they're proposing. Remember, the SDS was already out in front. They're proposing to put a house on the existing foundation, and then they're gonna put a driveway in, an accessory structure way back here at the back of the property. So that, so much bigger, it's bigger, so.
And it seems like an awful, for 1,000 square foot, that seems like an awful huge cost to put in a 1,000 square.
well, we could be, I mean, while he's looking for it, Christian's asking some questions. I mean, we remember, as if Kim were here, and I think John will make the same comment, that we're just making a referral back to the zoning board of appeals, and we can be saying that we do or don't see an issue, but please be mindful of looking at this, 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 and this.
Well, I mean, if the structure's only 1,000 square feet, and you look at what they need to do to put that driveway in,
Because they're just.
that seems,
Okay, let me just read their letter because it's here. What's that? That's the RA10.
R10.
Yeah, that kind of area.
Let's listen to Jerry.
So their letter, I'm just gonna read their letter because I guess. They are located in the R10 zoning district. They are looking for, they're looking to construct a single-family primary dwelling with 5 bedrooms over an existing concrete basement structure that will be 6,962 square feet, plus a 634 square foot attached below-ground parking garage with storage. That is the accessory structure. The way the code is written, even though it's a part of the primary structure, it's an accessory structure. We're working on trying to change that, but it's taking a while. In addition, we're proposing a 2,018 square foot accessory dwelling unit with 2 bedrooms at the rear of the lot. According to the town's general standards for special use permits, although in the RA10 zoning district, it is permitted to have 300 square feet of accessory structure per acre or 4,435 square feet on the 14.5 acre parcel. Only 900 square feet can be habitable. Therefore, they are requesting a variance to increase the habitable accessory dwelling unit area to 2,018 gross square feet, equating to 1,118 square foot increase in habitable space.
So it's more than double of what's permitted.
Correct.
And they're already looking at, what they're basically doing is building 2 homes, they're subdividing the lot with 2 homes.
Yeah, they're subdividing a lot without subdividing a lot.
Exactly.
Because it's RA10 and
Yeah.
they're at 14.4.
That's a discussion for a later day, later time. What's before us is specifically whether or not you're okay with that overage request.
And how large can an accessory dwelling be in R10?
Like,
Yeah,
it's
variance,
about
it
the
could be
square
like-
feet of a
But
land.
what's
So it would be 900 square feet.
900 square feet is the.
Oh, it was the,
Like I said
So
at the beginning,
to remind you that, so the zoning board of appeals will conduct a balancing test and versus the benefit to the applicant versus the potential detriment to the community. And they're required by law to consider 5 factors. One is the impact to community character. The second is the substantiality of the variance, the degree which it exceeds what's required. Physical impact to the environment, whether the goals of the applicant can be achieved in another way that is feasible, that doesn't require a variance, and whether the variance is the need for a variance is self-created. So those are the things that the board's going to look at. I mean, my suggestion to you would be, I mean, this is definitely an unusual request. You know, put in your comments to the ZBA what your thoughts are. Let them do, they'll have to do with them what they will based on their consideration of the factors. But I think in these kinds of cases where the applicants, I understand that applicants want to go see if they can get the variance first because they want to know the answer to that question before they start expending funds on an application for site plan approval. But it doesn't always make it easiest on the boards to go in that direction. So you should, my experience has been that the ZBA members will find helpful the kinds of questions that the planning board members would be asking, you know, and will ask at the time that this comes before you. But it'll give them a good insight so that they can add, you know, they can throw that in the blender and add that to what they're thinking about.
I think it's important to note that this is a vital and key roadway that in part defines the estates district and, you know, the historic character of the town. It's not just a random road that, you know, has a particular zoning requirement. And that's, you know, I didn't offer that facetiously. I do think it kind of challenges that defining characteristic.
Well, my question is, okay, I went, it was almost 2 years ago now. I always wondered what happened to it. But knowing what the lot looks like, they're gonna really have to disrupt that lot to put that road in. And that's not a driveway, it's a road.
Well, this one's going to.
Tom's right, it's a really steep grade there.
Yeah.
When this comes to the planning board, it will be going to Christian. We told them that in the pre-con. There's a lot of engineering here, there's a lot of slope work here.
Despite questions, no require us.
Oh, for sure.
But Jim and Melody's point, that's not what's in front of us right now.
Correct.
It's just the square footage, and they're entitled to put an accessory. Is another 1,000 square feet, which is the only comment we're here to make.
Well, I think that, you know, Christian pointed out it's very close to a floodplain. I think those are the kinds of things that maybe the zoning board of appeals, you can say to them, please give consideration to the location that's been selected. Give careful, you know, that there are historic and landmarks, you know, there are other circumstances to consider here in granting this. It's not, I mean, we can say maybe we don't have a problem with the square footage, but we want the zoning board of appeals to understand that there are these other factors.
I like what you said about it.
Oh, well, good, Jill, I'll write that down.
It's kind of a big ask, and I know that I remember when the nursery school was going into the pavilion. I mean,
Yeah.
The little plastic gym that the kids crawl on is considered an accessory structure. And that was over the limit. And it's like, now you're gonna give these people, an extra 1,000 square feet. My house is only 1,400 square feet.
Yeah, it doesn't feel exactly like summer house. It feels like it's moving toward it.
The other piece of it though, which again is not what we're here to discuss tonight, it's like talking about the historic nature of the street and all of these things. I would argue or suggest that having a 6,000 square foot house very close to the road could be more cumbersome than something that no one can see back in the woods. And so these are the discussions to be had when they're in front of us, but of the things we're discussing, the waterway, the driveway, what is in the forest, that all these things, there's a lot more to discuss. To me, I don't know if the 1,000 square feet, which is what we're going to discuss, is going to be the biggest fish we have to fry.
Yeah, and one of the things I will say is that I wasn't at the ZBA meeting, but I believe I know from Kim that the applicant is aware that if the project gets changed at the planning board, it's very possible they may have to go back and get the variance redone in accordance with the conditions, and they're making
And
their
that's the
own.
risk they take when they go to the ZBA first.
Yeah, they're making their own bet on that.
As long as they understand that. You want to repeat what you think you're going to say?
I'm doing everything on the meeting here. I had something to the effect of talking about how the board has noted that they are concerned about the location selected, historic natural landmark district are all factors, and will be part of the site plan review discussions as it relates to the variance square footage request. I don't have an answer yet.
I don't know that I necessarily have a comment on that. I mean, I think I would leave that up to the ZBA for them to consider, but that we have these other.
Okay, so we defer to the ZBA.
Yeah,
Consult
we'll
with the
send to
same.
the ZBA on the square
Recommend that they
footage.
rely on their own study of the facts.
Yeah.
So we'll note that we have planning concerns, they can.
If you have concerns about possible impacts to community character, you should mention that, because that's one of the factors. If you have concerns about the substantiality of the variance that's being requested, you should mention that, because that's one of the factors. The other factor that doesn't come up that often in ZBA, in variance applications, because the magnitude of variance applications is usually small, but one of the factors is impact to the environment. And getting back to Tom's comment earlier, there is a question in this case about what's going to have to be done to get that driveway down there, and whether that is going to be a significant impact on the environment. And in a way, you guys are, because you have more experience with those issues, you're in a better position to speak to that. So if you, as I said, if you have some concerns about it, you don't have to resolve them, you just have to express them to the ZBA as concerns, just so that they're aware.
What does, in the final balancing, which is self-created, I'm never quite sure what that means.
What it means is that, in most cases, what it means is that, in other words, the zoning law sets a standard before you came to the property. And so your desire to exceed that standard is a self-created circumstance. Because
So,
you're
in many
deemed,
cases, it feels like the answer mostly is yes.
it's almost always.
But isn't most CPA self-graded?
Almost all,
Yeah.
99%.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, I always look at that and go, well, because you're here to seek, a variance from the law.
There have been a few instances where people have, they purchased a lot and it was conforming at the time and the zoning law changed and it became non-conforming.
Yeah, I
And
can
that
see
would be
that.
an instance where if it's the same property owner
Yeah.
and now they're looking for a variance, that would be an instance where it wouldn't be self-created.
Well, that might be our next one, so we'll get to that.
Very
Okay.
smart.
So how do we feel about the variance request itself? And again, I think, as I mentioned before, unless I'm wrong, the ZBA can grant the variances to these guys, and the planning board can come back later and say, you can keep the size, but you gotta move it 500 feet in, and that wouldn't change anything, they'd still have the variance. So because they get the variance for the size, doesn't mean it has to stay where it is.
Well,
necessarily.
I think, I haven't resolved this, and Tim's on the point on this with the zoning board of appeals. in the past, in situations that are similar to this, the ZBA is usually very specific that the variance that's being granted is tied to a certain set of presented circumstances. And the idea is not to have it too stretchy because things can change as the plan changes. So generally speaking, I think that Kim and the ZBA will be making an attempt, if this variance is granted, to put some, to define it in a way that it's only
Based on the square footage.
circumstance, it's applicable to what has been presented to the plan that's been presented to the zoning board.
So
Then if-
location and size.
Then if the planning board doesn't like the location, we should speak up right now and say they don't like the location.
Well, it
because
would be a
could
courtesy to the applicant and to the ZBA for them to know that.
But what you're saying is if the ZBA does grant the variance, as it was shown on the plans, then that is effectively the way it goes. The planning board really would have a difficult time saying that it would have to be moved or changed.
I don't agree with that.
No, that's what I just said, is that if they grant the variance, it could be for the size, but the planning board could move it, but then what I thought I heard you say was no, the planning board couldn't move it.
No,
The planning board can move it, and if that happens, the applicant's gonna have to go back and apply for a variance
I think that's
in
what we're trying
accordance
to
with the
clarify.
revised plan.
The zoning-
And we've had that happen.
Zoning board's looking at square footage. That's the
Yeah.
variance they're being asked for.
Yeah.
And I think, but if you want to put in your, the planning board, in looking ahead to the site plan review, has some concerns about the location.
I do have that.
They have their public hearing on the 18th, so would it make sense if you guys are looking at the 17th?
It's
The
fine.
request,
Sorry, you went too far.
due to these concerns, that they automatically proceed with them.
Melody, did you hear Gretchen's suggestion?
No.
We've done a quote with the ZBA where we requested in a referral that they continue. They're gonna be on with us on the 17th. And on
ZBA the 18th.
public hearing 18th, the 18th, the ZBA. So, I mean, you guys could do what you've done in the past, request that they continue.
I didn't know there.
That way you guys have, it's time to
A
start
chance
reviewing.
to see, get more detail,
Right.
have a presentation be made to you about the plan,
Right.
and
All right,
Do
I'm
you have
fine with
any
that.
concerns in that?
Everybody see that as a benefit?
Great.
Okay.
So they're going to be on our calendar for the 17th?
As long as they get me in, they'll be there. And they've been pretty good about it, so.
All right, well, let's do that. Does everybody agree?
Yep.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Minder.
Okay, second one is Minder. Let me just pull this up on parcel access so I can show you where we are. This one I think would be one of those cases where it's not self-imposed. We are looking at one of these small properties right on the end of the village. This one right here. These little parcels, this is the village line. The parcel is actually split. It's interesting within the village and the town. Very, very small parcels. As you can see, the house is on a tiny lot. What they're looking to do is replace the existing 11 by 22 garage, which is this structure right here, with a 16 by 30 garage slash addition that will include a half bath and hook up for laundry. It won't connect to the house. It won't be in the garage per se. So this is the site plan. The existing garage is here. What they're looking to do is build a new one, a little extra square footage. And the bathroom is back in here that we're connecting to the residence. So the garage would be this area, essentially, and this would be the bathroom going into the house. And I can show you that. So on the right is what exists, the house and the garage, and on the left is what they're looking to do, make a bigger garage with a laundry room off the back. Going into the kitchen area of the house. So they are looking for a structure that is 5 foot wider to the north, which is closer to the property line, 8 foot longer to the east, which is to the rear property line, and they need a side yard variance of 33 feet. Because it's a 50-foot setback, and they don't have anything close to that.
existing garage is already in the setback here. It is in the setback by 5 feet. So while they're asking for 33 feet, they're actually only going 5 feet closer.
But this is all of this is in the town? Or is it both in the town and the village?
It appears to be on the line, which is something that I don't know if the ZBA has really grappled with or not. I didn't realize it.
Isn't there some sort of provision where if there are neighboring jurisdictions, the one with the strictest requirements is the one that has to be met? Or am I hallucinating that like AI?
I mean, technically, the house is in the village. If you look at the line, assuming this is close to
That's
Ashby.
reliable, yeah.
The town, I mean, we know this isn't 100%, but the property that's in the town is such undeveloped, so. I noticed it when I was looking at it, but I don't know, I don't know the details.
Normally, the provisions of the zoning law apply that are, given where the location of the structure is, it changes, but there are provisions that sometimes, there can be separate provisions in the zoning law that will extend, well, not in, that's, check that, because that's true for split zones, but not for a municipal boundary. It's whatever applies based on where the structure is and where the change is.
Then they probably just
Okay.
Can we just ask them the question?
Well, can we just say that we are unclear as to who should be reviewing this? Is it actually a village?
Yeah, I'm sorry that I'm not up on it. Kim's working on it, but I can say that if it's not supposed to be before the ZBA, the ZBA wouldn't be entertained.
Right.
Because in the past, what we've done is that we have had, on occasions, applications that come before the board, and either we don't agree that a variance is required or whatever, and those applications get, we counsel the applicant to approve.
Why don't we just ask the clarifying question, and also just, if it is in our jurisdiction, this is what we would suggest, so that we just cover our bases.
Do we have any issues with the proposal?
Yeah, that's a good way,
Just to cover, I don't have a problem with it. It's a small lot, and they're doing the best they can. They need to function in their home.
Yeah, and it's largely everything's already been laid out.
Yeah,
It's not
a
a
small
big change.
modification.
You see the lot to the north is,
Yeah,
I
very
know
close.
these aren't survey lines, but it's right on
Yeah.
it's right on the
New
property.
garage is going to extend out 5
So
feet.
these
5
are
feet.
already
Exactly.
pretty close to
And then it comes back in
situated
here.
places.
And it seems like that neighboring property wouldn't have any opportunity to build in the direction toward
Right.
this, because their property line is right at the edge of their house.
The neighbor's
So it's not like this action is going to prevent them
That
from
neighbor's family.
doing their own addition.
Only now.
Well, only now, yes, but
They
I
family
think that-
to each other.
So it seems
the
to me
in-law.
the response would be to let the ZBA rely on their own study of the facts, but we are not clear that it's entirely within town jurisdiction. Just
That's
confirm
fair.
something to that effect.
Good, I move that we accept that.
Second.
All right.
Just one last, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Just one last thing, we had asked Jim to draft something for us for review tonight regarding sending something back to the town in terms of advancing the recommended changes or additions to zoning, et cetera, et cetera. And we just didn't get to it, and we wouldn't have got to it. So I just
Fair
tell
enough.
you that we'll make an attempt to bring that before us at the next meeting.
I was sick last week. I apologize.
That's right.
So I
I
would
wanted to hear if I
entertain,
was
yeah, unacceptable.
but I can't talk for
I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Christian.